Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case.
Literally not true.
Is that correct?
Not him, he Anglican boy, he's very much well. Oh, for Trump's sake. I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Good morning, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I'm the Recovery Addict. Happy Thursday, Podcast Thursday. One of the best days of the week. Let's see, I think we got some chat here. We do. Got to say welcome to Selena. Oh, not sample user. Not sample user. Not you. Selena K. Congratulations. First in chat this morning. She may be hobbling around, trying to get feeling better, but she was able to beat the rest of y'all here. First in chat. It's awesome. Selena, congratulations. Now we're going to punish you. That's right. We're going to punish you with internet ownership for being here first. You're responsible for everything IP-related worldwide. You're going to do fine. Just add that to your list of things to do. You got nothing else on your plate, right? Wonderful. Good morning, one and all. It's great to have you here. We're going to start a new case, follow a new case today. But before we do that, we have to appropriately celebrate those occasions which must be celebrated, including birthdays today. So if anyone has their birthday today, please let us know right away. Because if you don't let us know promptly, we will miss it completely, and there's no going back. So, OG Sean White, welcome to the gallery. Thank you very much. It does. I have to give you an update. I slept last night with earplugs. I slept with earplugs because I told my wife. I said, "Hey, I think the bird, that annoying bird that screams all night outside our window, did not, it must have found a mate because it wasn't screaming last night. Having forgotten that I had slept with earplugs." And she looks at me and she's like, "Oh no." It was yelling all night long. And I know you guys don't want me to eliminate the bird or to cut down all the bushes. So I'm thinking the best thing to do.
Happy birthday. You look good.
The best thing to do is try to bring a mate to it. So I'm thinking I put in a Craigslist ad, calling all. What do you call a free female bird? And give it the address and promise food. So I think maybe I'm going to DoorDash instead of having Panda Express brought to me. I think I'm going to DoorDash bird seed to my house and just make it. It's like, okay, clearly you're trying to attract a mate. Maybe if I help you find a mate, you will stop screaming all night long. It might work. Let me know if there's. Craigslist is dead. Facebook Marketplace is where to go. All the birds hang out there, says Nikki. Lee, member for 25 months. OG. Welcome to the gallery. Congratulations, Lee. Thanks for your longtime support. You and Shells are fantastic. Appreciate it. Let's see. We got Jackie Ferreira. Welcome to the gallery as well. Who else? Let's see. We got OG Sean White. We got Jackie Ferreira. We got Lee. And then, oh, yes, we have Kelly. Kelly, thank you very much. Thanks for the Pop-Tart recommend. She's like, I don't sleep anymore. My husband and I just stay up and play Pop-Tarts. I love it. It is a fun game. I'm glad you're enjoying it as well. Lee, thank you. OG Sean White, member for 15 months. Congratulations as well. All right. What was the buffer? There we go. Is this everybody? We've got Shaylee, Melissa W., Sean, Ashlyn, Laura A., and Matthew celebrating their birthdays today. Is there anyone that should be on the list that is not? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. I hear nothing. Weezer says, I haven't opened the box yet. I'm waiting on the grandkids. They're going to love it. They're going to love it. Okay, I'm not seeing any more birthdays coming in, so let's do this. Everyone stand up, take a deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room, blend your voice with your neighbors. Warm up with me if you will. La 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 la. Excellent. We're all ready. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Shailene, Melissa, W, Sean, Ashley, Laura, A, and Matthew. Happy birthday to you. To everyone who's celebrating their birthday day, happy birthday. Today's your special day. There are many special days. This one is yours. I realize there are many places you could be, millions of people you could have celebrated with, but you chose to be here with us. The privilege, the pleasure, the honor is all ours. Hopefully we can turn some of that back to you and make your day a little more specialer. You can do that by helping yourself to free pancakes at Denny's, Waffle House, Village Inn, McDonald's, IHOP, Tammy Dunlap's house, Andy's Grill, Bob Evans, and many other fine establishments. Tammy's is where it's at, though. Shailene, Melissa, W, Sean, Ashlyn, Laura, A, and Matthew, happy birthday. Melanie says, go to Tammy's. Go to Tammy's. If you've got a choice, Tammy's is where the best pancakes are. Happy birthday, says Tisha, to my niece and nephew, Matthew, and Ashlyn, 18. Did we sing to them? They were in there, right? We sang to them. Yes, they're in there. Awesome. Happy birthday. Let's see. I think that covers all the birthdays today. So help yourself to free pancakes. Have a wonderful day. If anyone hassles you over the free pancakes, have them call me. All right. We'll let the music play out because the dancers are doing. We'll add Cindy. One more. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cindy. Happy birthday to you. It's time for the drum solo to finish this off. So everyone, dancers included, grab your air drum stick, sit down to your air drum set, get ready to beat the toms and hit the cymbal here as we finish up the song. It goes something like this. Ready? I nailed that one. I mean, had I had real drums, it would have sounded the same as you heard in your ears. That's what I'm saying when I say I nailed it. All right. Hell in a Handbasket. It's a Helena Handbasket. I can never get the pronunciation right. Didn't get notification that YouTube... I didn't get notification that YouTube is the word that I use. Got banned? What? Got banned. You know what I hear? I hear court. I hear court happening. I need to figure out what to follow in court today. Let's give you a quick little rundown as to what is happening in this trial. Linda Stermer is on trial for killing her husband, Todd. Todd was beaten, burned, and bashed with the car. That's why I say it's a triple threat trial. Beaten, burned, and bashed with the car, allegedly. And Linda, I'm going to spoil it for you, was found guilty. There she is. She was found guilty. But she gets a new trial. This audio is...
I believe we've all discussed sequestration of witnesses in chambers, so we would be asking for that, Your Honor.
Agreed. Okay, I'll sequester witnesses. Experts, however, will be allowed to sit in on testimony of other experts.
And as well as our investigating officer. Thank you, Your Honor.
And investigating officer is excluded as well.
The sequestration order is just put into effect, meaning that everybody...
Did you have any investigator you wanted to exclude?
All the witnesses have to stay out of the room.
One more time, Anna.
Did you have any investigator that you wanted excluded from the sequestration?
Yeah, that would be Mr. Frankel, but he won't be here today.
Okay. Any other matters to address before we bring in the jury for openings?
I am Your Honor.
No, I think we addressed those in the chambers.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring in the jury.
Okay, this audio is terrible. Like, next level terrible. Let's see what we can do on this. We have first of all, hard surfaces all around this courtroom, fancy woodwork, hard surfaces. It is an echo chamber with a microphone in the back corner. I don't know. It is le bad audio. Diana Banana, welcome. Good to have a grizzly here. We love grizzlies. They need some drapes to dampen the sound, for sure. Let me get the timer reset properly, the counter. Does anyone know what we should be counting here, other than echoes? Maybe if everyone just sits down a bit quieter.
Morning. Morning. Welcome back. Now is time for opening arguments. And just to let you know...
Opening statement. Somebody just corrected the judge.
I'll introduce myself. Thank you very much for being here. I know that you probably know, I think prior from the judge, who I am, but my name is Susan Zeiderveen, and I'm proud and honored to represent the state of Michigan and the people of Van Buren County as your elected prosecuting attorney. So now is the time for opening statements. It's our opportunity to tell you what to look for in the case, kind of our roadmap, what we plan to present to you over the course of the next several days, what evidence that we plan to present, and who will be testifying. So we talked a lot about in voir dire, about the charges and the elements. So I want to take a few minutes just to dive into what those elements are and what the charges are. We have count 1, first-degree murder, and we have count 2, felony murder. So what are the elements that we talked about that I need to prove to you? So for count 1, the very first element, the first box that we need to check, is that the defendant caused the death of Todd Stermer. That is, that Todd Stermer died as a result of the actions of the defendant. That's the first box. Second box, that the defendant intended to kill Todd Stermer. That's the second element. Third, that this intent to kill was premeditated. That is, thought out beforehand. And the last box, last element that I need to check on this count, is that the killing was deliberate, which means the defendant considered the pros and cons of the killing and thought about and chose her actions before she did it.
What if she only considered the cons?
There must have been real and substantial reflection for long enough to give a reasonable person a chance to think twice about the intent to kill. The law does not say how much time is needed. It's for you to decide if enough time passed under the circumstances of the case. And the killing cannot be the result of a sudden impulse without thought or reflection. Those are the 4 elements, the 4 boxes. So let's go to count 2.
Ineffective counsel is why she gets a retrial.
These are the 3 boxes for count 2.
Her lawyer screwed up.
First, that the defendant caused the death of Todd Stermer. That is, that Todd Stermer died as a result of the actions of the defendant. Second box, that the defendant had one of these 3 states of mind. She intended to kill, or she intended to do great bodily harm to Todd Stermer, or she knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be the likely result of her actions. That's the third box. I'm sorry, the second. Third box is that when she did the act that caused the death of Todd Stermer, the defendant was committing or attempting to commit the crime of arson. Those are your elements.
The lawyer didn't hire a fire investigator.
That I will be then working to check over the next few days. I want to give you the definition that the court will give you of arson, because I think it's important in satisfying the second count. What is an arson? These are the elements of the arson. First, that the defendant burned, damaged, or destroyed by fire or explosive a dwelling. If any part of the dwelling is burned, no matter how small, that is all that is necessary to count as a burning. The property does not have to be completely destroyed. The dwelling is not burned if it's merely blackened by smoke, but it is burned if it is charred so that any part of it is destroyed. That's the first box. Second, that at the time of the burning, damaging, or destroying, the property that was burned, damaged, or destroyed was a dwelling or any of its contents. That's the second element. Last one, that when the defendant burned, damaged, or destroyed the dwelling or any of its contents, she intended to burn, damage, or destroy the dwelling or its contents, or intentionally committed an act that created a very high risk of burning, damaging, or destroying the dwelling or its contents, and that while committing the act, the defendant knew of that risk and disregarded it. Those are all of the elements or boxes. So let's start out with what happened. January 7th, 2007, deputies Tony Evans and Gary Gress are dispatched to the house. It's a Sunday afternoon in January at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon. They go to County Road 215 for a reported structure fire. They find the Stermer residence in a fully involved fire. This is the scene that you will see and that we expect to present to you as they're driving in from their squad car. This is what they see. When they drive up, deputies locate several people standing on the north side of the residence. For those of you that are directionally challenged like I am, that's if you're looking at the front of the house, it'd be to the right of that picture. At this time, they locate Todd Stermer. He's laying in a pool of blood, approximately 20 to 25 yards from that side of that residence. Mr. Stermer this says unclothed. It's actually not 100% unclothed. His sweatpants and his underwear are pulled down to his ankles. He doesn't have a shirt on, and he's still wearing his socks. He is badly burned, and to say badly burned is an understatement. His burns cover almost all of his body. His hair is gone, his ears are deformed, his skin is slipping off his body. Due to his injuries, the people who are on scene try to move him farther from the home, just to be able to get him away from the fire and away from the house, and then they attempt to render aid. Due to the severity of Todd Stermer's injuries, he passes away shortly after people arrive due to those injuries. At this time, there are multiple people on scene, many of them who you'll hear from today. Mike Matheny, Connie Calhoun, our neighbors directly next door. Dr. Richard Musali, another neighbor, and Steve Leach, who was the fire chief at the time, all arrive within minutes and are on scene. You will hear from them what they saw and their statements. On January 7th, the day of the fire, the investigation starts. They call in after the original deputies are there. They end up calling in the detectives. They call in Detective Gabrielle Rout, who is now retired, and Detective Tom Maziowski, who's also now retired. And they respond to the scene a little bit later in the day. The investigation starts. They start collecting all the evidence that they have on scene. They take numerous photographs, of which we expect to present to you. And they find a van still running, located in the west of the Stermer residence. So those of you who are directionally challenged, the van is running in the backyard. Tire impressions are located, and the detectives mark them with flags, the tire impressions leading to the van. There are several items of clothing that the neighbors we listed, have taken out and placed on Todd's naked, burned body. Those items are also collected by the detectives and put into evidence. You will also hear on January 7th, the day of the fire, people start trying to gather some initial statements. What happened? You're going to hear from Deputy Gary Gruss, hopefully today. He will tell you what Linda's first statement was. You will also hear from Detective Gabrielle Rout. She also talked to Linda Stermer on that day, and you will hear what she told Gabrielle Rout. As this investigation continues on the 7th and the 8th, Detective Sergeant Scott Leroy is brought to the scene. He's the fire marshal, and he's brought in to then inspect for the fire investigation. He arrives on the day of the fire on January 7th. He's actually there when Todd Stermer's there. He takes pictures of Todd. He takes pictures of the scene. And he's the one that seizes the sweatpants wrapped around Todd Stermer's ankles because he smells an accelerant. He also arrives on scene the next day and conducts a further investigation. He takes additional photographs, of which you will see. He examines the structure of the house and possible causes of the fire. You will hear from Dr. Markey at Sparrow Hospital, who conducted the autopsy. You will hear his cause of death is from those burns that he suffered. You will also hear on January 8th, Don Galuz, who's a Berrien County Sheriff's Department deputy, is called to the scene to do mapping and distances of the scene. So I'm going to show you, I think this will show up on all of them. This is the driveway coming into the house here. Oops. You can see the house. You can see the north side where the victim and the tire tracks are, here on the north. And you can see where the van is ultimately located in the backyard. And what makes this interesting is we expect to present to you details of the terrain of this yard. For those of you who are familiar with Michigan walkout basements, this is a walkout, meaning that where the body and the tire tracks are on the north side is a slope down. Where the van is at below the grade level, and there's sliding glass doors that lead out of the basement. He will explain the distance of the tire tracks. He will explain the distance from the house of the body and go over the scene in detail for you. You will also hear that on January 9th and 10th, James Shinsky is hired by the defendant's insurance company to conduct an investigation, their own investigation into the fire. He has a background as a fire investigator. He then does recorded interviews of with Linda Stermer on January 9th and January 10th. You're going to start hearing, as people start digging in to the questions, start asking more questions, start going into the things that don't make sense, the explanations that the defendant starts giving, and how the story grows and changes. It's going to start here. That's her third statement. You are going to hear, we expect to present to you, Dave Hayhurst and Ann Hunt. They are both, Dave Hayhurst is with the Michigan State Police Laboratory, and Ann Hunt used to be and is now retired. They're going to talk to you about that van that was found in the walkout level in the backyard, that was driven by the defendant that day of the fire. They're going to talk about the multiple points that they examined, the evidence that was scraped from underneath the van, and how they evaluated it and where it was found, and the results that is determined to be the blood of Todd Stermer. You're also going to hear that the defendant's purse is found in Todd Stermer's van in the front passenger area of that van. You are going to hear testimony from Troy Ernst, another scientist at the Michigan State Police Laboratory. He tested the clothing that was seized from Todd Stermer that day, and he tested for accelerants. You will hear his lab reports. January 15th, James Shinsky starts conducting his own fire investigation. During this investigation, he seizes several rags from the washer in the basement of the Stermer residence. These are collected by Mr. Shinsky and sent to a private laboratory for testing. We expect to present evidence to you from Craig Belliette. He's the chemist for Baker and Herbert Laboratories. He's also now retired. Many folks have retired since 2007. And he conducted an analysis of those rags that were seized from that washer by James Shinsky.
Your Honor. What's the date on that last slide?
Let's see if I can go back here.
Okay.
January 26th, Mr. Ballier. On February 27th, Steve Willison, who's an attorney for Farm Bureau Insurance, also becomes involved. So again, part of the fire insurance investigation. Defendant sits for an examination under oath at the request of her insurance company. The plot starts to thicken. The statements start to become more descriptive, change. You'll hear how everything starts changing. Blame starts being shifted. Stories, statements, explanations continue to change. Linda gives a statement again about what happened on January 7th. And at that time, she implicitly denies having an extramarital affair. October 18th, several months now after the fire, it's still in 2007, Steve Willison sits with the defendant again for a second examination under oath. Talks to her again about the events of January 7th. They go over the details. They go over what doesn't make sense, what's not adding up. More questions are asked. More digging is done. Things don't make sense. I'm asking, as the evidence is presented, to focus on her statements. You will also hear from additional witnesses. Kate Fox is going to come in near the end. She was the former friend, actually best friend, of Linda Stermer. You're going to hear the statements that Ms. Stermer made to Kate Fox. Mr. Williams, Chris Williams, is going to come in. He's going to talk to you about how he started his extramarital affair with the defendant, knew she was married, knew her from work, 6 to 8 months prior to the fire. You're also going to hear from Kathy Ilg, another friend of the defendant, and statements that she made to Kathy. You're going to hear from Kim and Ken Thompson. They were also neighbors close by, not direct neighbors, but close by. They were actually on scene that day. They will tell you what they saw, what they heard, what the defendant said immediately after the fire in those days. You'll hear from Annette Crandall. She was also on scene on January 7th. You'll hear more statements that Linda made to her. At the end of the trial, you're going to hear from Trenton Stermer, Trevor Stermer, and Corey Pierce. All three are the sons of Todd and Linda Stermer. They were teenagers at the time of this fire. Now they're grown men. They're going to come in and talk to you. They're going to explain what it was like to live in the Stermer household, what the dynamics were, what the relationships were. They're going to talk to you about what happened that morning, the night before, to give you an insight as to what occurred in the hours preceding this fire.
Posted what
this trial is going to be a lot of it's going to be about the
was last
evolution
time.
of Linda Stermer's statements. As people ask more and more questions to try to get to the root of what happened, to understand, to figure out what really went
on the screen.
Just in the process of asking more questions, you're going to hear statements how they change about the home life. You're going to hear statements that actually change about what happened in the morning of the fire. You're going to hear statements change about where Linda Stermer even exited the home, the most basic details. What door did you go out? You're going to hear her statements. You're going to hear her changing statements of what she observed. What did you see? Where was the fire? What did you see? And you're also going to hear a lot of missing details that may be shown by other evidence and that we expect to show you. Particularly important are the statements about running Todd Stermer over with the van. Statements about never seeing the defendant. Statements about why. Why would you drive to the back of the house on a walkout basement? Why? You'll hear them. At the end of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, all the boxes that we painstakingly went through in the beginning of this opening statement will be checked. And I am going to ask all of you to render a guilty verdict on counts 1 and count 2. Thank you very much.
So during the first trial, the prosecutor repeatedly branded Stermer a liar, misrepresented her testimony, and disparaged her while bolstering other witnesses. Her counsel did not object. In addition, her counsel did not call a fire investigator to counter the investigator the state had, and these other reasons she is granted a new trial. Prosecutorial misconduct and ineffective assistance of counsel. So now we're back here. This is the second time she's been tried. She was found guilty in the first trial, and then it was overturned.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank you all for participating in this democratic process that we have in America. You are a very essential fiber to the blanket of rights that was embedded in the very doctrine that we all stand on and live with in these United States of America. And I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but this case is about a family. It's about an American family. It's about love.
Love?
It's about dreams.
Stuff of nightmares, what it sounds
The
like.
American dream most Americans have is to own a home, to own some property, to raise a family, and do the things that you love to do independently of anyone else. A family nucleus. The Stermer family was an American family.
He's hammering this all-American point.
Marriage created an opportunity for them to grow together, an opportunity for them to purchase some land. On 2 occasions, this last occasion in which they purchased, and they decided to build their own home. A family castle. Mr. Todd Stermer was very talented in reference to his skill sets of putting things together. And they set out on this journey with him, Linda, and the children, that they were going to build what they wanted to build on a lot of land that they could hunt, fish, be apart from anyone else, and have fun on their property. But it wasn't a totally isolated area. It was in the township of Lawrence, where most people have the same dream and desire to have some property, some space, to have their horses or the cattle or whatever pets. And it was the same thing with the Stermer family. They had horses, had dogs, cats, and had the vision of having many other things.
So far, he has not talked about this
case. Themselves, with all the natural and necessary machinery that goes with maintaining a large space of property.
Were they farmers?
And so as the construction began, it got to a point where they realize that we've built this enough that we can move in. Even though it's not completed totally on the inside, all the build out wasn't completed, but it was enough to satisfy the occupancy for them. And they would continue the finishing of this project.
I don't think they're allowed to mention the previous trials.
And they didn't put a lot of money in a lot of fancy things. They lived in a common way. They didn't have a bunch of fancy cars. As I stated, the most important focus was the children, the school, their property, and the things that they enjoy among themselves. And in a township where the motto is, we grow together. And even though these neighbors live far apart, they all knew each other. And so, on January the 7th,
here we go. Now we're talking about the case.
2007, very unfortunate tragedy occurred. On that morning, Miss Stermer and Mr. Stermer are at home. He's upstairs in his favorite place, watching TV.
In front of the fireplace. There it is, fireplace.
And Miss Stermer is doing standard household chores. She's down in the lower part of the house. And the children are gone to the movies. And I don't want to give you any misdirected assumptions, but yes, as all families, they had some problems from time to time. But as I stated yesterday, in marriages, you have good days and you have bad days.
I think this
and
would
you
be one of the
always
bad
pray
days.
for more good days than bad days. And even the bad days, we work them out. We try to work them out.
I feel like I'm in marriage counseling.
And on this day, there was a conversation in reference to working out some family matters. And sometimes you don't want your children to be privy to some of the conversations that adults need to address as it relates to the totality of the family, including the children. Sometimes that could elevate up to separation, divorce,
murder.
But these things are what should be discussed among adults, not in the presence of children. And so that was the reason why the children was gone to the movies at the suggestion of Miss Stermer, that they were going to talk about some family issues they didn't need the children to be privy to. And so that brings us back to Miss Stermer and Mr. Stermer being in the house alone.
They were arguing over the thermostat.
There wasn't any fighting. There had been some arguments. Nothing physical. Nobody threatening anyone. As a matter of fact, Ms. Stermer had earlier that day went to one of the local convenience stores. Gasoline for the car.
Matches for the
purchased a few
fireplace.
items,
Rags for the
home.
garage. Empty bottles for canning.
And she's there with her husband. And of all the things that could happen, she hears a scream that she's never heard before. A very scratching scream. And she runs upstairs, and as she gets to the top of the stairs, all she can see is fire. All she can see is her husband on fire. What could it be like to run to a door and see nothing but a gulf of flames and a human body that you can't get to? All sources of communication was in that room. Her cell phone. She had no way of calling anyone.
Smoke signals, I guess. But.
And in a state of total panic and trauma, she runs down and she gets out of the house for the sole purpose of trying to go and seek aid, help. My house, my husband is on fire. She gets outside. It's cold. Had rained. Had snowed. The terrain around the house was not concrete. And therefore, she jumps in the van, a 1993 Ford. This is 2007. It's not a 2005. It's not a 2006. It's a 1993 Ford. She jumps in the van, and after she gets in the van, she tries to maneuver out of the drive. And then she sees Mr. Stermer. Some kind of magical way, he had maneuvered out of the house on fire. And he was on fire. But when he got out of the house, she sees him, she gets out of the van, and she goes over to him and does everything she can do to try to help. A body, the skin from a fire is coming off. She tries to pick him up, and she can't maneuver that. And so she tries to get him in a comfort place to just stay in one place until she can get back in the van and go and try to seek some help.
Is that when she ran him over?
And as she attempts to leave, she doesn't look down on the ground in some kind of way because of the involuntary movement of his body. His body is positioned in a way in which when she attempts to drive out and back up and go forward,
2 times.
His body is up under the center of this van.
Oh, this is bad.
By
This
this
is
time,
so bad.
the evidence will show that one of these very dear neighbors, several had seen the smoke in the
Smoke
sky,
signals.
had called 911. And by the time one of the neighbors arrived, she was totally traumatized, and they said, "Where are the children?" And the evidence will show that they were finally advised the children was not in the house because everybody was concerned about who else was in the house. They could see the ball of smoke from a far distance apart. But no first responders are there for a while. Matter of fact, the very first people that are on the scene are all neighbors from the township of Lawrence. One individual was a doctor, not on duty, but he was a doctor. He arrived. You hear the evidence that there was a Mr. Matheny and his significant other, Miss Calhoun. They arrived. And because of his condition, they all was trying to figure out a way to provide some degree of comfort. And Mr. Matheny, who was a mechanic, opened his trunk and he had a lot of work clothes in his trunk. And he laid them on top of Mr. Stermer for some comfort. And the facts will show that where he was now positioned, there was a fuel furnace that was part of the heating system of the house that had been installed by the family, Mr. Stermer, as part of the building. Several individuals was concerned that this fuel furnace was going to explode. And so when the very first responder arrived, they decided to pick Mr. Stermer up and put him in a small little boat and move him far distance from the house. And all at the same time, they're continuing to call in to 911, telling them, get somebody out here quick. And so when the first responders, I suppose the ambulance arrived, they did all they could do. But there's one part of this that you have to understand, the trauma.
Please help me.
That Miss Stermer was going through at this time when they were calling 911 there at the scene. There is a voice that in no shape, form, or fashion that a human mind could assume that this could be a fake voice or a voice to cover something up. Can we hear the voice?
What? Do we have someone who's going to mimic the voice? Is she going to do it? Okay, you know it's bad. You know it's bad if your defense attorney, in telling your version of the events, has to resort to using the phrase, in some sort of magical way, something happened, and then somehow, after your husband, who was fully engulfed in flames, makes it out of the house, and you try to hold him down, get him to stay in one spot before you get in the van and then run him over twice. This is their story. This is their version. Who needs prosecution? He's doing both sides. Imagine a voice.
3:31 p.m. 7 January 7, 2007.
From that point on, this whole tragic event has destroyed a life, it's destroyed a family, and we will be able to show you that the destruction from this fire, that there was a duty, an obligation for several individuals to do what was necessary to determine the origin and the cause of the fire and that there is absolutely nothing through the totality of this investigation that puts any weapon in the hands of Linda Stermer.
Other than the van.
The links were never there. From this point, the investigation started with one person is alive and one person succumbed to the fire, and therefore one person must be the cause of the fire. That one person would be the person that they can talk to. And that's not the way it was supposed to be.
Should plan this out differently?
The evidence will show that there was an accidental fire in a house, in a room that had burning candles, that had burning lamps, oil lamps, that had a fireplace, and that the location of where the fire started and how it began to grow was in the same room where Mr. Stermer was. Not where Miss Stermer was, because she was down in the lower part of the house doing laundry and chores.
She has her own alibi.
And they started their investigation with this rush to judgment. We are going to make something because we think. We have hunches. And what they did was, as she stated, when they arrived, one person decides that I'm just going to take the pants off of this individual that is lying here suffering and taking his last breaths. And what little he's got on, with a burned up body, I'm going to take his pants off because I think I smell an accelerant. And the pants that got tested, their laboratory say it came back with an accelerant. Don't say where the accelerant came from.
From his pants.
But we will show that this oil furnace that was installed by Mr. Stermer as part of their heating system in the house, and along with the fireplaces, that the oil furnace had some problems, and that from time to time the oil furnace had to be bled. And so in bleeding the oil furnace, Mrs. Stermer had done that the day before, and he had used some of the towels in the house, and these towels were left down in the lower part of the house. And so accelerant in reference to the household issues and needs on the outside was a common activity of use. They're going to tell you about a gasoline can. And on this property, they probably had 6 gasoline cans. Because what do you use gasoline for if you own a farm? Every machinery you have is oil and gasoline.
Usually diesel.
Petroleum. And any one of those is combustible, right? Can start a fire. Sometimes with a match and sometimes without. But the facts will be, for sure, that the cause of the fire was not by a human act, but it was clearly because of some flaw that existed in the upper part of the house. So they take these pans, but what you will also know, that this very same day, evening, and moment after that 911 call that you heard, and when the first responders arrived, and Van Buren County Sheriff's offices arrive, you're going to know what happened was that they told Miss Stermer, "Can we have your clothes?" Now, evidence will show that she has laid down on top of her husband, begging and pleading, "Don't leave me."
Don't move.
She
Stay right
has
here.
his
Let me get
blood
the van.
on her clothes, hugging and embracing him. She had previously tried to pick him up. And
now she has accelerant on her clothes? What?
They say when they realized that Mr. Stermer is not going and didn't survive, so placing him in the ambulance, it was now time for the coroner's office. But they told Miss Stermer, "Can we have your clothes? Come get in the ambulance." And one of the dear friends that lives in the neighborhood, in the area, had showed up also on the scene. She says, "I'll go to the house and get some clothes for you to put on." And so they took all of her clothes in the ambulance, gave them to Van Buren County officer, and the evidence will show that after they receive her clothes and she's able to put some clothes on that's brought to her from a friend's house, that they test these clothes, her clothes. She cooperated 100%. She didn't say, "You don't have a warrant? Am I under arrest? I don't need a warrant. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to find out what happened." But you wouldn't think that you'd be the immediate one, to the point that at this point of your life and you being totally traumatized and experiencing this wretched incident that's taken everything from you.
What?
Your castle, your husband, your children's father. You want my clothes, but I'm going to give you my clothes. They take those clothes. They have them chemically, forensically analyzed. And the evidence will show that when the test came back, there was zero of any scintilla of any type of accelerant.
Scintilla or scintilla?
And an interesting twist about all of this now is that we're thinking that this should be investigated by law enforcement, but all of a sudden, here comes the insurance people. And the evidence will show that Ms. Stermer didn't even know if their insurance was paid up on the house. There had been some financial issues. Things had gotten behind from time to time. But Mr. Stermer was in control of managing those affairs for the house.
If the insurance guys came, it was paid up.
And the insurance people they tell Ms. Stermer that no, your insurance was not paid up. But if you will go downtown and write a check to the insurance agent, we will consider your insurance back in force.
So it was late but not canceled.
And that's what she did. And then the insurance people, they started doing what they do. And many times what they do is to see how much money they can keep from paying out on a claim. And so they started this investigation of just trying to interrogate, take depositions, twist questions upside down so they could get the narrative that they wanted. And at the end of the day, they get their narrative. So they come out to the house 2 days after the fire, tell Ms. Stermer, meet us out to your property. Don't have the decency to say, come to our office. This lady is now homeless. Her children are homeless. All their belongings are gone. But the courtesy that's extended to her for the insurance is that I'm going to drive out to your property that's been burned down, and I would like for you to meet me. And she cooperates. Her mother, one of her friends, and the insurance person says, we need to talk to you. They put her in their car, and that's where they conduct their interview. And then that's not enough, so they come back another day and do the same thing at the property, in the car. And Ms. Stermer has cooperated 100% with them through this whole process. Hasn't delayed, didn't do anything but whatever they asked her to do. And so that's within the first weeks, 3 weeks and months. And then all of a sudden they started providing some financial relief, temporary under the policy. And then what's more tragic about this is, as you said, this happened January the 7th of 2007. The destruction continued for almost 2 years. Before any charges were filed. They went on every degree of a witch hunt that you can imagine. Every person that knew Miss Linda Stermer, they went and talked to. It was so grotesque that they even started looking at Mr. Stermer, the deceased, as the cause, maybe, of the fire. But what they never did was a true investigation for the origin and the cause of the fire. And the evidence will show that because of the fact that they can never and did never try to make any attempt to determine the cause of the fire, they have absolutely nothing that they can put in the hands of Miss Linda Stermer as causing the arson or the fire. And therefore, there is absolutely nothing of an element that they can meet of an arson. Talk about an affair. Talk about some disgruntled friend. Talk about somebody that had a dispute with you, that don't like you. And you're going to use that and connect that to say, okay, we can go all the way back to 2 years ago and we can make this show that, yes, she committed this fire. They go as far as when they do arrest Miss Stermer, they put her in jail. And they put her in jail with other females. And shortly after she's in jail, the evidence will show they start pulling people out of the jail. You know this Stermer lady? You were in the cell with her? She tell you anything about her husband? She tell you anything about what happened, why she's in jail? Yeah, she says, I'm in jail because they accused me of burning my house down and my husband died, and so they charged me with murder and arson. But every last one of these people that they spend a whole lot of time interviewing in the jail, every last one of them give them a different narrative of what they think they want to hear. And we call those people jailhouse snitches.
No way.
But I leave you with this. Every last one of us is blessed to have the rights that we have in America.
We're back to the American dream. Here we go.
Accusations are accusations. But that fiber that I talked about earlier, that presumption of innocence, that beyond a reasonable doubt, those are some very, very strong threads that we get to wear every day. In this case, throughout the duration of this trial, you won't hear nothing from the defense other than the fact that there is no direct evidence, there is no circumstantial evidence.
It's a bold statement.
And the beauty of all of that is that the law states that you can't convict someone on conjecture. You can't convict someone on speculation. You can't convict someone because somebody didn't like the way she talked. You can't convict someone on somebody that you think that they was having some type of look or an affair or a conversation with another person under any shape, form, or fashion in America. That's not our society. That's not our foundation. Our foundation is what it's supposed to be, and you have the evidence that we're going to present in the defense of Linda Stermer. That justice shall prevail for this lady who's had to suffer through all of this since that day of January 2007. And you will bring back what is fair and what is just under the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of this state, and the laws that are so embedded in each one of our lives. Thank you.
We'll take our morning break. We'll take about a 15-minute break. Please remember the admonitions for those who are able for no discussing the case with each other or anybody else. Do not look at any news reports that may come your way. If something pops up on your phone, for example, delete it immediately.
Okay, so while they go to break, wow, we get new ones every single day. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. That I have never seen this this tactic used quite so ineffectively. I guess you could say. I don't know. Let's see. Let's bring up a little. I sense a problem, is what I sense. We're going to go back and we're going to listen just a little bit to, if I can get the audio working first. So, let's see, I'm not going to make the mistake this time. There we go, got it fixed. We're going to go back and we're going to listen to a portion of the 911 call, not the end, not the wailing or howling or whatever that was. That sounded terrible. We're going to listen to the very beginning, and I've tried to clean it up a little bit so we can hear a little better what is happening in this video. But they played the 911 call right here. Hopefully it's not too loud. We'll start quiet. Roll tape.
January 7, 2007.
Yeah, January 15th, 6030, my address is the halfway forest.
0302.
My address is the halfway forest. Oh, yeah.
You know if anybody lives there?
I do not, yes, they live here.
Is anybody inside you?
I don't know.
What did she just say? There's a house on fire. It's my address. She gives the address. I live here. If we go back just a little bit, the dispatcher asks this question.
My address is the house right for it. No.
0302.
My address is the house right for it. Oh, yeah.
You know if anybody lives there?
Do you know if anyone lives there?
I do not, yes, they live here.
Is anybody inside you?
I don't know.
Is there anybody inside? Is there anybody inside? I don't know, is her answer. I don't know. Is there anyone inside? I don't know. Her lawyer just said that right before this call was made, I think this is Linda, right? Is this Linda's voice?
I don't know. I see people right now. I don't know if these women inside.
670.
Is this a neighbor?
North, south of here.
It is. Oh my God. It's right before my house. Right before. So I can see the number before me.
Okay, well, that's part of what's your name, please?
My name is Kathleen.
Okay, so I was wrong. This is definitely a neighbor. That's the neighbor. Thank you very much for that. I might want to go to the end and see if she says now she's running him over with the car, the house before me. Okay, well, we'll let that one slide then. I thought for some reason that was Linda's voice at some point on that recording, but this sounds. I was fighting with every fiber of my being not to push this button, but I nearly during the opening statements cued the music because this, what I describe as a sob story that the lawyer told, was unbelievable. I mean, we've heard the snot bubbling up and everything in the trial. This, we first debuted this music at, but the attorney describing her losing her castle, losing her belongings, her whole life, her American dream that day tragically went down in flames or up in flames while she was doing laundry in the basement, and her husband was sitting in his favorite room surrounded by flames, and she had just gone to the store to buy gasoline, as American families do on their farm. And then suddenly she hears a scream from upstairs and rushes up to the burning room to find the whole room is engulfed. Her husband specifically is engulfed in flames. And not knowing what to do, she runs outside to go get help because every phone, every method of communication is in that same flaming room. She runs out to the van. She has her purse, she has her keys. That wasn't in the room. That was fortunate. And as she goes to flee the scene, as she goes to go for help, she notices that magically, in some mysterious way, her husband, who was previously fully engulfed in flames, has made it out of the house and is now crawling for his life away from the burning home that he built. She rushes to him, grateful that he is alive, gives him a big old bear hug because that's what you do to burn victims. Pushes him down on the cold ground or the snow. I think there was snow. Probably to cool him off a little bit. Says, "Stay right here. I'll get the van." And she does. She gets the van. But in her haste, she forgets to check exactly where she's driving, and she backs over her husband. Realizing she might have backed over her husband, she stops, throws it back in drive, and drives over him again, a second time, before leaving the van, running in the backyard, where it's found as police show up. This is the defense version of events. You cannot make that stuff up. That is unbelievable. Oh my goodness. The defense, their goal is to take the facts as they are presented, as they've been found at the scene, and tell a story that incorporates the facts, that does not implicate their client, that gives another theory of the events of how they happened. Say, here's why she went for gasoline. Oh, they have tractors. They need gasoline. Tractors take diesel, but maybe lawnmower or something. She went to get gasoline. There were gas cans. Here's why there were all the candles and lamps and the fireplaces burning in that room. It was an unfinished building. Okay. And here's why he was fully engulfed in flames, because he, as a builder, as a farmer, as somebody who understands how, gasoline and fuel and fire work, accidentally covered himself in it the day before, and then through some act not by human hands, ignited in his favorite room, while she had encouraged the kids to go for a movie. Well, Dad and I work out a few issues. I forgot about the boat and the voices. Oh, the boat was the neighbors. The neighbors brought the boat. Apparently in Michigan, you can get anywhere in a boat. There is a lot of water. So, I'll need to see the neighborhood map. But maybe the boat could get to the hospital faster than a car. Or maybe it was a rowboat. And they put his body in that and used it as a sled in the snow down the hill to get closer to where the ambulance would be. I don't know. There's probably a good explanation for that one. Lori says, why has this taken many years to take this trial? Lori, would you be surprised to know that it didn't? It didn't take this long. That this has already gone to trial, and she's already been convicted and was sentenced to serve a life sentence. But she appealed. She appealed because in the closing statements of the prosecutor, he repeatedly called her a liar, disparaged her in the closing comments, bolstered his own witnesses, misrepresented her testimony, and her lawyer failed to object to any of it. In addition, her lawyer failed to call a fire investigator to get some different facts about how the fire started and why and how and by whom. And those failures and that prosecutorial misconduct combined were seen by an appellate court as a reason sufficient to grant an appeal. The conviction was overturned. She was released, and this is now her retrial. So this is round 2. Did anyone else notice that she apparently did not look at the jury one bit during this story? I don't know if she testified the first time. I haven't looked at that. When was she released? Let me read let's see. It was argued December 3rd, 2019, decided and filed May 15th, 2020. That was when it was overturned. So she's been out for a while. That's crazy. Let me look at the conclusion. For reasons stated above, Stermer is entitled to a new trial, and we so affirm the district court's grant of conditional writ. There's a dissenting opinion. The Circuit Judge Sutton dissented. With all respect to my colleagues, I do not see a plausible path for overturning Linda Stermer's murder conviction. The evidence introduced at the state court trial left no doubt that she tried to burn her husband alive and ran him over with the car in the front yard of their house when that did not work. All that was missing was a film of the mariticide. Sorry. None of the constitutional claims raised in her defense ever comes to grips with the reams of evidence against her. The path gets steeper and longer when one accounts for the strictures of the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act. Today's case, sad to say, explains why Congress felt compelled to tie the hands of federal judges in reviewing habeas claims in 1996, and why the U.S. Supreme Court should ensure that we adhere to it. Examine the trial record, which provides chilling and overwhelming evidence of Linda's guilt. During the months before murder, Linda carried on an affair with her coworker, Chris Williams. In conversations with her friend Kate Fox, Linda repeatedly discussed the possibility of killing her husband. including running him over with her car. The day before his death, Todd Stermer discovered the affair. Oh, coincidence. He told Linda, "Get her blank together and get out," and that he would stay in the house with our teenage boys. Early the next morning, Linda drove to the gas station. She bought gasoline and poured it into a container in the back of her car. Returning home, she sent her teenage sons to the store with money. The boy's father appeared to be asleep on the couch in front of the television when they left, though they could not be sure as their mother would not allow them into the room. Soon after the boys left, neighbors spotted smoke coming from the Stearns residence. They found the house ablaze and Linda behind the wheel of the family van on the way down the driveway. Apparently, noticing the neighbors, Linda reversed direction and drove behind the house. A dead end, away from any help and away from any indication she had just run him over. The indication did not last long. The neighbors found Todd Stermer lying unresponsive and burnt in the front yard. The top and back of his head had serious cuts that looked like they came from a blunt object. The autopsy confirmed that someone ran over him with a car, and investigators found Todd's blood on the underside of Linda's van. Linda admits she ran him over, but claims she didn't see him. A torched body in the front lawn of their house in the middle of an afternoon some distance away from the driveway. In conversations with investigators and police, Linda repeatedly lied. She denied purchasing a container of gasoline on the day of the fire, denied having an extramarital affair, and gave conflicting stories about where she was when the fire started and how she got out of the house. She also veered back and forth about her interactions with Todd before his death. First, she said they argued about finances. Then she told investigators that she took a nap, did laundry, read a medical booklet about burns, I guess, and fetched Todd a glass of juice before he died. Test the juice. Ditto for their interactions during the fire. First, she stated she didn't see Todd during the blaze and that she only heard him yell that there was a fire. Then she claimed that she did see Todd on fire and that he screamed that nobody else would ever have her after him. If you can't have me, then none shall. Is that like a quote from Lady Hawk or something? What's the video? If I can't, then none shall. I don't know. Linda did herself no favors in conversations with Fox after the fire. She talked about sneaking into the home to retrieve a coffee mug that contained traces of a sedative she poured for Todd before his death. Oops. Her plan. Hang on, I've got a prank call. Hello?
Hi, good day. My name is John, calling you from Your Choice Getaways. How are you?
Hi, John.
Right. And I'm calling about a large amount of truck credit you have on file. And I see the activation fees were covered, so you just number, dates, and trouble. We don't want to see you lose the credit or the vacation themselves, and I know you still see yourself traveling in the future. Am I right?
You usually are.
So to start you off, you will receive a 4-day, 3-night resort stay in Vegas. You will have the option of staying on or off the strip. You also have 4 days, 3-night resort stay in Orlando, within away from all the theme parks. Additionally, you can enjoy our all-inclusive Flix cruise with 8 days, 7 nights of accommodation, and you can choose between Carnival, Norwegian, or Royal Caribbean to choose from. Your package, sir, is also fully customizable, meaning you can pick and choose your own destination. And since this package is already paid for it and your travel credits covered all the entire package in full, so all of the upgrades, destinations, and also the accommodations are no additional cost. So the only thing that you are responsible for this package, sir, is just your only one-time booking and processing fee, and that's it, nothing more. And I know that I can do something really special for you, sir. So just give me a moment to pull up the full account and let me see what that is for you.
Hey,
so
John.
I just need you to hold.
Are you there, John? Could you go over? I didn't hear what you said. Can you say that again?
So the only thing that you are responsible
back
for
at the
this
beginning.
package, sir.
Can you say all of it again? I didn't hear what you said. You said you were from
I'm
your
calling
choice.
about a large. Yes, sir. And I'm calling about a large amount of travel credit you have on file. And I see the activation fees were covered, so you just never book dates and travel. We don't want to see you lose the credit or the vacation themselves. And I know you still see yourself traveling in the future, right?
I got that part. You had said something else after that. What was
So,
that?
so to start you off, sir, you will receive a 4 days, 3 night resort stay in Vegas, and you will have the option of staying on or off the strip. You also have 4 days, 3 night resort stay in Orlando.
Did you say
within
4
minutes
days?
away from
4
all.
days? Could you talk a little louder? It's hard to hear you. It was 4 days and 3 nights?
Yes, sir. 4 days, 3 night resort stay in Orlando, within minutes away from all the theme park. Additionally, you can enjoy our all-inclusive Flix cruise with 8 days, 7 nights of accommodations, and you can choose between Carnival, Norwegian, or Royal Caribbean to choose from.
I can still
Your
barely
package,
hear
sir,
you. Talk as loud as you can. I can barely hear you.
Okay, sir. Wait. Sir, just a second, sir. Wait.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, I can hear you. It's still quiet, but I can hear you.
Okay, sir. Uh, your pack. Okay, let's continue the transfer. Your package, sir, is also fully customizable, meaning you can pick and choose your destination. And since this package is already paid for it and your travel credits all the entire package in full, so all of the upgrades, destinations, and also the accommodations are no additional cost. So the only thing that you are responsible for this package, sir, is just only your one-time booking and processing fee, and that's it, nothing more.
Okay,
And I know that I
had
can
my
do
volume too far down on my phone. I'm sorry, it was on my end. Now you're really, really loud. It's hard to hear what you're saying.
Okay, sir. So the only thing that you are responsible for this package, sir, is just your only one-time booking and processing fee. And I know that I can do something really special for you, sir. So just give me a moment to pull up your full account and let me see what that is for you. So I just need you to hold the.
Hey, John, you've already done something special for me already. I'm a live streamer on YouTube. You've been on YouTube for a little bit. We've got a lot of friends listening. They're really enjoying hearing about this package. Can you tell me how to spell your name? How do you spell John? That was a hard question. I shouldn't have gone with a hard one right off the bat. All right. Thanks, John. He's frustrated. Oh, man. He's gone. He gone. All right. I guess I don't get any more travel credits. Where were we? We're about to go back to court because we're still on break. But and we get the ceiling vent, not the fan, which is, I guess, is better than nothing. But we'll keep an eye out for sound from court in just a minute. Going back to the story, reading about the this is the dissent on the appeal that was granted, why she got a new trial. Linda did herself no favors. She talked about retrieving a coffee mug that contained traces of sedative she poured for Todd before his death. Her plan was keeping the mug away from police who were coming to the house to look for evidence the following day. Linda did not stop talking after she went to jail. 2 inmates, Veronica Tracy and Dardita Gordon, testified that Stermer admitted striking her husband in the back of the head. That's the beaten part. The information squared with the examiner's report. Information that only the authorities and Todd's killer could have known. Neither Tracy nor Gordon received anything in exchange for their testimony, and both were interviewed after their release with no additional charges pending. That means they're trustworthy snitches. Linda Stermer tried several defenses at trial. She objected to the credibility of the prosecution witnesses and put on a character witness of her own. She called witnesses to establish that Todd experienced fires on 2 properties he owned, implying that he set this fire and mistakenly set himself on fire as part of the ill-fated insurance fraud scheme. or that she tried before and had failed. But this theory contradicted Linda's earlier account to the investigators that Todd tried to kill her in a fit of rage. By then, the government had scuttled this earlier account. As the prosecutor put it, if you are going to commit a murder-suicide, you do the murder part first. You don't do the suicide first because you aren't going to be able to do the murder. This is a quote from the first trial. If you're going to commit murder-suicide, you do the murder first. And both accounts failed to explain Linda's conduct before and after Todd's death, as well as Todd's blood on the bottom of the car. Let's review the bidding. One of three things happened that day. Todd killed himself, Todd died accidentally, or Linda murdered him. No one tries to pin the death on a third person. The idea that Todd killed himself is a non-starter, aside from the oddity of attempting suicide by lighting oneself on fire in a house that had plenty of firearms in it. The account does not explain the lacerations on Todd's head or how he managed to make Linda's car drive over him. The possibility of an accident suspends belief. Two remarkably unlikely events would have to happen. Todd accidentally would have to set the house and himself on fire, and his wife accidentally would have to drive over him in the front yard. That is a lot of bad luck. All within 24 hours of another piece of misfortune, the disclosure that Linda was having an affair. That leaves the last possibility, the only realistic one of the three, that Linda killed Todd after he discovered her affair and told her to leave the home and her teenage sons. Nothing in the evidence answers any of the questions that point to Linda in the murder. Why did Linda fill a can of gasoline on the morning of Todd's death? Why did we're coming back to court? We'll have to go back to that. There's some good stuff. What should we count in this trial? Magical? Pauline, thank you very much. Congratulations, OG. 23 months. Always late. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks, John, by the way, if you're out there. Appreciate the call. That is a good-looking vent. Liebel, you are not wrong. I think it needs to be cleaned, though. It looks dusty. Looks dusty. Okay, I think we need to count how many times that we have some magical, like, I don't know, somehow it happened type thing. Does that make sense? Like he magically came out of the house. That would be one. And then somehow he got under the van. That would be two. It's too early to decide what's count. We might change it. Might change it. If you guys have a better made-up words. Oh, made-up words is good. That is great because it applies to everyone. How many do we have so far? Scintilla? Scintilica? I think we have two made-up words as well. Tisha. Scintilica.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Sandra Stermer to the stand, please.
DSN, thanks for gifting 5 memberships. I think we're going to do made-up words. If you hear a made-up word, which is a word that doesn't exist, but used as if it does, we're going to add it. We've got Scintilica. There was one other. What was the other one? Jay Reno, congratulations on 25 months, another OG. Embedded.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank you, Jay Reno.
Did you want the hearing assessed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to make sure I hear what Ben said.
Is that good?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then you can move the microphone. It's easier to move that than that heavy chair. So you can move that closer to your mouth so the chair can hear you.
Okay.
And we'll start by having you tell us your full name and spelling your last, please.
Sandra K. Stermer, Stermer.
Thank you, Ms. Ayden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Stermer, did you know Todd Stermer?
Yes.
How did you know Todd?
He was my son.
And do you know Linda Stermer?
Yes.
And how do you know her?
She was my daughter-in-law.
And how long were Todd and Linda married?
I think 13 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I have you move your microphone down a little bit? There you go.
Better? Okay. I think 13 years. They were together longer than that.
Do you know how long they were together before they got married?
Well, they had 2 kids. Trace, so a couple of years, 2. Trace might have been 2 or 3 when they got married.
A couple of years, and then they were married about 13?
Yeah.
And what was your relationship with Linda like during the marriage?
It was okay.
What was your relationship like with your son?
It was great. He was a good son. I loved him.
Had you been to their house, the new house that they built on County Road 215?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm not hearing very good here. What was it?
Had you been to their house that they were building on County Road 215?
Oh, yes.
Many times?
Yes.
And at the time of the fire, can you describe to the jury kind of what the state of the house was, or?
It was still a work in progress, but the chimney was done, bedrooms, it was very livable. Nice kitchen.
Did they have floor coverings? Like carpet and...
I don't think there was any carpet. I think it was just wood floor, but I won't swear to that. It's been a long time.
A lot of years. So who was building the house?
Todd was. He'd get help when he needed help, and his brother helped him quite a bit. A lot of friends. He had a lot of friends.
Had he built things before in the past?
What now?
Had he done building or remodeling in the past?
Yes, he was very, very handy. Could figure out most any kind of carpenter work, plumbing, electrical. He worked with an electrical contractor at one part where he was in an internship for quite a while. I was hoping maybe he'd stick with that, but he likes his independence. So
you said he built most of the house himself, but then contracted out other parts?
Yeah, there was parts of it that was contracted out, yes.
Do you know who was living in the home at the time of the fire?
Todd, Linda, Trevor, Trenton, and Corey.
And who are Trevor, Trenton, and Corey?
Trevor and Trenton are Linda and Todd's sons, and Corey is Linda's nephew.
And did Todd treat Corey as a nephew,
Corey.
or?
No, he treated him like a son. He was a son to him. And we figure he's my grandson. I mean, I don't normally even say anything different except Todd's 3 sons.
And had Todd and Linda raised Corey from a young age?
2. He was only like 2 with me. So.
Todd died on January 7th of 2007, right?
Yes.
And when did you see him last prior to the fire?
The Friday before.
So that was on a Sunday, so you saw him the Friday before? And what happened on that Friday?
Well, my other son had given me $100 gift card to go to Red Lobster, so I invited Todd and the boys to come in. It was going to start school the next week, and I said if they came in, I'd buy them lunch or Brad would buy us all lunch at Red Lobster, and so they did, and we had a nice lunch and good time. They were in good moods.
So you had the 3 boys and you and Todd?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Linda was working, so she wouldn't have been excluded if she'd have been.
And what was Todd, you said everybody had a good time?
Yes, we did. He had been to a doctor earlier in the day, for an ear infection. And so the boys drove in, and then he came after his appointment. And that was it. We just chatted and talked, beginning of school and whatever was happening.
What was Todd's mood?
Todd was in a very good mood that day.
In spite of the ear infection?
Yeah, he was. I remember him smiling and laughing and joking with the kids. So.
Any discussion about anything bad going on?
He didn't tell me anything bad going on, no.
If there would have been something bad going on, did you have the type of relationship where he would have discussed it with you?
He would have eventually, but he probably wouldn't have brought it up right then at lunch. But anyway, so he would have probably tried to talk to me in private rather than,
Instead of in front of the boys?
Yeah.
Were you aware of any problems that Todd and Linda were experiencing in their marriage?
As far as, no, nobody told me anything. That I didn't think it was turning into a very good relationship by then. Just more tension between the two of them. That Thanksgiving, he came to Thanksgiving, him and the three boys came to where we were all at family-wise, and she went with the girls someplace else. So that's holidays like that where it was getting iffy whether they'd both be coming together or not.
And traditionally, are holidays a big thing in your family?
Yes.
And usually everybody comes together?
We usually come together, yes.
Did Todd, was he a physically fit man at the time of his death?
Yes, he had very little body fat. He was in good shape. He wanted to play sports all the time, and he couldn't do anything. At that age, he was 42, that he played 110%, and he was very active.
Did he get involved in any coaching?
He coached, yes. His kids, he coached a whole lot. And a lot of people, and Lawrence and everything, really, there's always going to be the naysayer, but most of them all liked him, and the kids liked him. He loved kids, and he was good with them.
Did he have any physical limitations?
No, he'd had a couple of knee surgeries from skiing and whatever sports things, but it didn't seem to slow him down much.
No. So you didn't notice that it slowed him down when he had those knee surgeries?
No. He was still out running bases and playing basketball. So
even after his surgeries?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When did you first hear about the fire?
Sunday night, later in the afternoon.
Later in the afternoon?
Evening, actually. It was evening.
And when you heard about it, what did you do?
After I talked to the detective, my sister was over there at my house, and we got in the car and drove out to Lawrence.
And did you actually get to go to the house?
We didn't go to the house. I drove down by the house, and then we found out that Linda and the boys were at a neighbor's house, and so we went over there.
So you went with the boys? Okay. And so did you ever go out to the scene that day?
Not that. I mean, I saw it from the road.
Okay.
But the driveway was a mess, and the fire trucks were still in there, and the police, and I couldn't go down. I mean, I don't know what I could have seen if I went down there, really.
And so then, did you have an opportunity? Well, where did the boys go after the fire?
They were at this neighbor's house. I don't remember his name now, but he had come over after the fire, and then and Linda and the boys were all there by then. Ashley had come, her daughter. And
who's Ashley?
Ashley?
Yeah, who's Ashley?
Linda's daughter.
Okay. Was she living?
By her first marriage. What?
Okay. Was she living in the house at the time?
I don't believe she was. Now she wasn't living there. She might have stayed there some of the time, but she wasn't living there.
Okay. And after the fire, did Linda and the boys live with you?
No, I was in a one-bedroom apartment. They spent that night with me, and most of the next day, and whatever. But then they moved out back to Lawrenceburg. They were going to go back to school.
Okay. Did you talk to Linda about what had happened?
I tried, yes.
So, do you remember the first time that you tried talking to her about what happened?
Yeah. I asked what happened. Basically, she said she was in the basement and doing laundry, and that Todd hollered at her to get out or something. There was 3 different stories that I heard within 2 days about how she got out of the house. So I'm not really, they kind of mix up in my head now after 18 years. It's kind of, but one of them was that she went out through the slider and ran around the house and tried to get in the front door, and there was too much fire. Then she told me another time that she came up the stairs and there was too much, and so she went back down now. And then the third one was she got up there, but she couldn't get in the living room where Todd was at, and so she went out through the front door.
So when you say the slider door, what door was that?
In the basement. It was a walkout basement with, you know.
Did she tell you where Todd was at the time?
Well, she said it, first of all, she told me, he was in the living room and he was on fire. So.
And she told you he was in the living room when she saw
and then you got to remember, we'd get just to a certain point, and then she'd start getting all hysterical or whatever. So I'd just back off. I wasn't being confrontational anyway. I just wanted to know what happened.
So the first time you said that she said she was in the basement, did she say what she was doing in the basement?
She said she was doing laundry.
And did she tell you where Todd was at that time?
Well, he wasn't feeling good, and he was upstairs.
Did she tell you anything about a fire in the fireplace?
Yes, she said there was a fire. He was sitting in his chair up there and had a fire in the fireplace.
And then she said, I just want to be clear, you said that she yelled, or that she heard Todd yell something?
For her to get out. One time, that was one thing she told me. So.
And then she tried to get up the steps, and that was when she couldn't get out?
Well, like I said, she told me 3 different ways she got out of the house, so I don't know which time was which.
So the time that she said she didn't get up the stairs, did she say why she didn't get up the stairs?
Says there was too much smoke and flame.
And did she say if she saw Todd at that time? Is that a no?
No, I'm sorry.
So she said she didn't see Todd, or didn't she tell you anything?
I don't think she said she got, because I don't think she could get up there far enough, supposedly, to see.
And then she said at one time that she went upstairs and she saw him, right?
Yes.
And then what door did she say she went out at that time?
She went out through the front.
The front door, which would have been in the house?
Yes.
Okay.
There was also another exit off the kitchen. She never used that, but there's a lot of ways out of the house.
Was the exit off the kitchen, was that on the side of the house, the back of the house, the front of the house?
The one in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Was toward the back of the house. It was like off the kitchen on the back of the house.
And that would have been the door?
I don't think there was any steps there, but I think that must be the way Todd got out.
Well, and I'm not going to ask you about that because obviously you weren't there, right?
Yeah.
So she said, one time she said that she went out the front door. Did she say she saw Todd that time?
You know, Susan, I mean, I can't tell you which one time she told me what. I mean, they were all right together. It was like one day she told me 2 different ways that she tried to get out or did get out, and then another way that she got out. So it's all here. I mean, you know.
Yeah. And then I just want to be clear, then one time she said she didn't see Todd and one time she said she did see Todd.
I'm sure she told me she saw Todd.
And you said that those all happened within how many days from the fire? Those 3 different accounts?
At the day of and the next day.
So between those 2 days?
Yeah, and then I quit asking.
Did you ever talk to her about the van and driving the van? No? Did she ever tell you why she was driving the van?
Said she didn't have a phone.
Did she ever tell you, or did you ever ask if she saw Todd outside?
Yeah, I didn't, because I won't elaborate. I didn't.
And she never said anything about that? Was there a time that you were talking to her in those 2 days where you were at Kate Swift's house?
No, that was later.
That was later. So how much later was that?
Probably within a week, because Brad was and Kelly, I think, were with me.
So who's Brad?
My son.
Your son.
Other son.
And that'd be Todd's brother?
Yes.
And what was the conversation with Linda? What did Linda say at that conversation with Brad and at Kate Swift's house?
Well, the kids were he was trying to question her, and she just got all hysterical and went off to the basement or the bathroom, and I just followed her in, but she didn't say anything.
So as soon as she was questioned, she began to hyperventilate and became hysterical and didn't want to talk?
Yeah.
Objection leading.
Did Linda ever talk to you about her marriage?
Not really, no. I mean, if she did, it would have been to complain about something,
On those conversations after the fire, did she ever talk to you about her filing for divorce or wanting a divorce?
Not to me.
Did you know anything about Todd and Linda's financial status?
Not good. Pretty shaky.
And how did you know that?
Well, I lent him some money.
How much money?
Do I have to say?
Was it over $20,000?
Yes.
And during the course of their marriage, how many times did you have to lend them money?
Well, Todd and I worked together, on different things. I wanted to make sure they had a house to live in, for one thing. So I would sometimes bail him out on make sure he got ahead of payment. And then he was very good about paying me back. It's just at the end here, when he was working really hard, trying to get the house done, that I lent him the larger sum. And I had no doubt he would have just kept paying until he paid it back. I never thought he'd ever wouldn't.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Ms. Stermer.
What was the other word other than Centilica? The made-up word.
morning, Ms. Stermer.
Good morning. What is? This thing is, I'm hearing noises coming from behind me here. From this, I guess.
Another kind, maybe we'll try.
Well, maybe if I just...
Was it the noise of this moving this?
It's weird.
Is it, are you hearing it now?
What now?
Are you hearing it now?
Yeah.
The noise?
Can you hear it?
No? Well, we'll
Here.
try a different headset for you.
Sorry. I don't know how this one goes on.
under your chin. Sound okay?
We'll see. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let's see if it works with your turn.
Good morning, Ms. Stermer. Can you hear me?
Hi, good morning, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'll be brief, Ms. Stermer. You stated that your son was very skilled in building. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he had been an apprentice. Is that I understand?
He was an apprentice for an electrician.
Okay.
You know, I'm sorry, can we move your microphone down again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Well,
Pull that microphone down.
okay.
Right there. See the microphone? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
There's sound issues in here.
I'm electronically challenged.
But you apprentice for an electrician, is that right?
Yes, he was. And he also, he just was one of those guys that could look at a blueprint and he'd measure and he just was a perfectionist along those lines. He really...
I'm not one of those guys.
He'd remodeled a couple of houses along the way and that he'd sold, and he'd learned. He was a smart kid.
Well, was this the first house that you...
that he built from scratch.
That he built from scratch, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And you were very proud of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always proud of my sons anyway, all daughters and whatever, but yes, I was proud of him.
So when he told you that he was going to build this first house from scratch, did you help him financially in reference to the...
Not right at first. I mean, it was later on he got, when he was getting into the closing stuff, and he'd already put a lot of money into it that he had, that I helped him out some.
Had you ever spent the night at the new house that he built?
Did I?
Yes, ma'am. You had, no? Okay. But you knew, did you know the geographics of the house on the inside? You did?
The geographics?
Yes, I'd been out there a lot.
Okay. Okay. It was upstairs?
I was probably upstairs only about once because stairs I've had both hips replaced.
Right. Okay.
Stairs are a little challenge.
Yes, I understand. But he had a fireplace. Did he ever express to you which part of the house was more passionate to him than the other?
No. Not to me.
Okay. Okay. When you were speaking with Linda right after the unfortunate demise of your son, was she still hysterical to you as far as processing the whole incident?
She pretty much when we got back to my apartment, I gave her my room. He fixed her up with, whatever. And she just went in there and stayed in there, and I was out in the living room with the boys, and so.
Good. And the lunch that you and your son and your grandsons y'all had, the only reason why Linda wasn't there is because she was at work?
They said she was at work or she was doing something. I mean, she worked periodically. She worked at different jobs, and she did a lot of horses. And so I don't remember especially, but I'm thinking it was work that they thought that said they, So.
Did you know about the horses?
The horses?
Yes.
I knew something about the horses, yes.
Beg your pardon?
What? I knew about the horses.
You knew about the horses, okay. So, would it be fair to say that your son or Linda, they didn't use you as a sounding board for any family affairs, right?
No, I know Todd. I mean, I had talked to Todd at different times. We used to ride to ball games a lot. His kids were real active, and I tried to go to as much as I could. And he had trying to get my thoughts straight. Anyway, he said he found out some things, but I don't think I ought to bring them up here. I mean, about whatever, about their marriage. I mean, he found out that she hadn't told him the exact truth about a lot of things before they got married.
Before they got married?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after they were married, a few more things popped up, whatever. But he was trying. He just told me he was going to try, and he wanted to be the best husband he could be. So he was going to stick with it, and didn't want to be a weekend dad. And that's where we pretty much left it. He didn't come and cry to me that Linda's doing this, that, or the other thing. No, that wouldn't have been him.
Okay.
He would have never. Okay. He would have, if they were really getting a divorce, he would have come to me and told me eventually that, we're getting a divorce, and I probably would have heard over that weekend, actually, if she was really leaving. So, okay. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Stermer. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. When the house that Todd built had a basement level, right?
And an upper level too.
So
loft or
a
whatever.
Loft. So
that's what I'm talking about. Yes, I didn't. I probably went up to the loft maybe once.
Okay. So was it like a loft that overlooked the living room?
It seems like it had stairs going up. It wasn't overlooking anything.
Okay. So you hadn't gone upstairs, meaning the loft.
Right. I had been on first 2 floors, yes.
So you were on the main level, and is that where the kitchen, the living room, and everything was at, on the main level?
We used to, like at Christmas, we played cards down in the basement.
So you'd also been in the lower level, in the basement?
Yeah.
So really the only level you didn't go to was the loft?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just wanted to be clear. And I just wanted to touch base. The evening of the fire, you said that you sat with the boys?
Actually, what I remember is sitting on the kitchen floor with Trevor, and we just sat there almost all night.
On the kitchen floor?
Yeah.
What were you doing on the kitchen floor?
Crying and talking and just supporting each other.
And Linda was not involved in this at all?
She was in the bedroom.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Jury, do you have any questions of this witness?
Jury questions.
Okay. Is she excused from persecuting counsel?
Your Honor, I would ask that she be excused.
Have not catch it, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. You're down. Any assistance getting down that side?
I can get down, okay. I'll put my hand out.
Take your time.
She's got her walker. She's got the headphones.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Deputy Tony Ayden.
She might get to keep the headphones so she can listen in court if she's staying. And she is. She's keeping them both. She's got both pairs. They're mementos, I guess.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Please have a seat, and when you're settled, and you can move the microphone away from the
It's a very ornate courtroom. He's wearing his coat.
Yeah, a little bit easier this way. Tony Evans, EVANS.
Thank you. What is your current occupation?
I'm currently employed at the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been there?
Over 26 years.
In what capacity were you working with the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department on January 7th of 2007?
I was a K-9 deputy.
You are pardon me, a what?
A K-9 deputy.
K-9 deputy. K-9 meaning you have a dog?
Yes.
And were you dispatched to a fire on that day at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon?
I was.
And do you recall the location?
The 66,000 block of County Road 215.
Is that in Lawrence Township?
It is.
Van Buren County, State of Michigan?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately how long it took you from the time you were dispatched till the time you got to the property?
About 7 minutes.
And were you the first emergency responder or law enforcement to arrive?
I was the first law enforcement. There was a firefighter, first responder that was there before me.
Do you recall who that was?
Steve Leach.
What did you observe when you first arrived at the home?
So when I pulled in a long dirt driveway, heading back to the west to a two-story yellow home, I pulled in, it parked off to the right about 3/4 of the way down. I saw heavy smoke on the north side of the residence. It was going up and a little bit to the north. Then I saw flames on the south side and smoke coming out of the second story windows.
How long was that driveway approximately?
Approximately 250 yards.
Was it a flat driveway? Did it angle up?
If I remember, it had just a little incline going up to it, to the west.
You said that you saw the smoke going up. I think you used your hands in a motion to show going up. Was there any smoke coming out of the sides of the home?
I don't remember any smoke coming out of the sides. I remember coming out of the second floor. It was pretty clear, actually.
So coming down the drive, you could clearly see the sides of the houses?
Yes.
Could you clearly see the yard?
Yes.
And you said you saw fire in the second story?
There was fire on the south side of the residence that I could plainly see. There's also some smoke. There was heavy smoke on the north side of the residence.
What were the weather conditions at that time?
When I pulled in there, I don't remember it raining. It was cloudy, a little overcast. Eventually it did start to rain though, sometime down I'm not sure the time frame of it when it started to rain. But
sometime after you arrived, it started to rain?
Correct.
And then did the weather change from the rain?
Went from light rain to heavy rain to snow.
And that was later on?
Yes, it was later on.
Would that have been after it was dark?
Remember it raining, so it was about 3:37, 3:46, if I remember correctly.
When you got there, correct?
When I got there. January of that time, I'm not sure exactly what time it got dark out. Obviously it gets dark out earlier in January here in Michigan. So I think it was maybe light out when it started raining as well.
Do you have any problems going down that 250-yard driveway?
I did not.
And then how far down the driveway did you get before you parked?
About 3/4 way down. I parked off facing the north.
And why did you park before the house?
I knew that first responders would be showing up, fire department, so I pulled off that way because it looked like there's only one ingress or egress going to that residence.
And then did you walk then from your car to the residence?
I did.
Do you recall the condition of the driveway as you were walking on it?
It seemed fine to me.
And then as you approached the house, what did you see?
So I saw subjects on the north side of the residence. About 5 people on the north side of the residence. I walked up there and they were attending to Mr. Stermer.
So I want to stop you real quick with on the north side of the property. Can you give the jury an explanation of what the terrain is on the north side and how that house is situated with the terrain?
So terrain-wise, it was a grass with a slight slope going down. And then it looked like there was maybe a driveway that they used to pull around to the back of the house at some point, but that would have been dirt.
And so then did the terrain go, did it go all the way down to then the lower level?
It dipped down to the west.
And so where were the people that you saw situated in like with that terrain?
About 20, yep, there's a green fuel oil tank that was there. So they're about 20, 25 yards to the north, maybe northwest from there.
And were they on the slope down that you described?
I don't remember being on the slope down, no.
Okay. You know what I mean when I'm talking about the yard sloping down?
Yeah, we weren't on the slope, no.
Okay, so you were up
the flat part.
Higher?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall who was on scene there? You said there were several people when you arrived.
Mike Matheny, Connie Calhoun, Steve Leach, who was from the fire department, Dr. Masali was a neighbor, and Linda Stermer.
And what did you do then when you first arrived and saw this group of people?
I went over there, noted that Mr. Stermer was on the ground. I noted that Linda Stermer was laying on top of him or on top of him.
I want to stop you there. So she was laying on top of him?
Well, she was on top of him.
And can you describe how she was on top of him?
So he was laying down, and she was I'd say knees to the side of him.
Straddling him?
With his head. Can I show you real quick?
Bingo.
Yeah, would that help if you could you come down
Who's going
and
to be
show the jury
Todd?
then how
Who's
she
going to be
was?
Todd in this reenactment?
So he was laying down here on the floor, and then said
Can you hear?
Can I just give you
So he was laying
Here,
down.
she's been using a microphone. Sorry.
So he was laying down on the ground. Say this is him, and there's his head. She had her knees here, and she was down like this on top of him,
And where was his head?
right here.
So she was face to face. Were her legs straddling his body?
No,
So she was to the side of him,
the
but
side of
then
him.
face to face with him.
correct.
How close was she to him?
She was on top of him.
Thank you.
Bingo on the reenactment.
Could you tell at that time if Todd Stermer was still alive?
He did have labored breathing.
And when you say labored breathing, what do you mean by that?
His breathing was shallow.
Shallow? Was he responsive?
No,
Did you hear him say anything?
no, I did not.
What did you observe about Todd Stermer and any injuries?
I know he had burns on his face, his arms. He appeared to be severely burned. His ears, you could see some cartilage on it. He did have a laceration to the back of his head that was bleeding.
And did you see blood anywhere other than the back of his head?
He also had lacerations to the back of him.
Was there any blood on the ground?
Yes.
And where was that blood?
The blood was where he was sitting, where he's laying on the ground.
Was he clothed at that time?
He was not clothed. He did have a pair of sweatpants and his socks on. I'm not sure if he had underwear on at that time, but they were wrapped around his ankles. And there was a plaid, looked like a jacket of some sort that was laying over his private area. There was also other clothes that were bunched up down by his feet.
By his feet?
Yes.
And did you ask the defendant, Linda Stermer, what had happened?
I did ask her what happened, and she didn't respond.
Did you ask her if anybody else was in the home?
I did.
Did she respond to that?
After a couple of times, she said no, or she shook her head no, and then said there may be some cats.
What was the defendant doing then when she was on the ground?
She was saying his name, Todd.
Was anyone else attending to Todd at that time?
There was the previous people I spoke of were around him. Dr. Masali was there as well. He was attempting to attend to him as well. At some point, we had to actually take Linda off of Todd and move her so we could do immediate care.
So when you say you had to take her off, what do you mean by that?
Had to hold on to her and physically tell her to get off so we could go ahead and attend to
So
Todd.
that you could do what?
Attend to Todd.
And when you say attend to, do you mean then administer aid?
Administer aid, yes.
And at that point, he still has the labored breathing?
Yes.
Did the ambulance arrive then?
An ambulance arrived at some point, yes. Well, no, I think that it was not there at that time, no. There was no ambulance at that time.
Did you attempt to administer any aid at that time?
So we were close to the house, and the house was on fire. There's a large green fuel tank that was on the north side of the residence. So I was worried for other first responders, everybody on scene. So tried to make the decision to move Todd further away from the scene. the decision was made between, I'm not sure among all of us, was to find something to move Todd. Because I went to try to move him, and as I grabbed him, so I tried to grab him under his arms and kind of like a fireman carry, see if I could bring him back. But due to his skin slippage, I was unable to do that. I then attempted to try and grab his arms, and maybe I could pull him that way, and the skin came off of his arms and went down towards his hands.
Were you able to find something then to try to move him?
One of the persons there, we found like a molded sled, like a plastic sled or some sort.
Like a kayak?
Plastic sled?
Yeah. From what I recall, it's like a molded sled. I can't even tell you what color it was. It was
just made of plastic?
That's my recollection. It was probably plastic.
And once you found that sled, what did you do?
So we moved Todd up, slid him into the sled, and then moved him about 100, 125 yards to the northeast, away from the fire scene. And once you got him moved, did other people arrive? Yes. And who arrived? So the fire department arrived, the ambulance arrived after a little bit there. I also got a hold of my sergeant. I relayed stuff on the radio to him about for him to respond to the scene. Also, Deputy Gary Bruss from the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office arrived. When he arrived, I asked him to grab a CPR mask because after we moved him and got him up in that corner over there, he stopped breathing. So did you attempt to administer any other aid at that point, or did they take over then with the CPR mask? We all began doing CPR and compressions. I think it was 3 or 4 of us that did it. Coloma EMS, if I remember correctly, was on the scene. They asked us to continue doing that until he was pronounced. And so at that time he had stopped his labored breathing, but you were still continuing CPR? Yes, and as we tried to do CPR on him, no more air would go into his mouth. Did you observe the Ford Echoline van at any time on scene? I did. And when did you first notice that? It was after attending to the medical aid of Mr. Stermer. I saw a Ford Econoline van at the south side of the resident, or I'm sorry, the west, well, that would be the west side of the residence, so behind the residence, with the front facing south. So, and I just for directionally challenged people like myself, the north side would be to the right of the house, correct? So if I'm going down the driveway and I'm looking at the house, the right side is the north, the left side is the south. So straight ahead would be west. Straight ahead would be west. So the Mr. Stermer and everybody were to the right on the north side when you first arrived? Yes. And then the van was in the rear of the home? Yes. And was it facing towards the victim and towards the people, or was it facing away from? It was facing away. Anything you observed unusual about that van in the backyard? It was running. I could see smoke coming from the tailpipe. How close was it to the home? It's fairly close, maybe 5 to 7 yards. And it was still running? Yes. When you talked about moving Todd, where did you move him to, now that we have a better concept of direction? So when we moved him, if you're facing the house, coming up the driveway to the north, and then a little bit back to the east. So kind of coming farther, back at me. Coming towards the backyard. Yep. Were you there when the medical examiner arrived? I was, yes.
So we're counting Ecoline.
At that point, once the medical examiner had arrived, was how was Todd pronounced dead at that time?
I believe so, yes.
Once he was pronounced dead, did you have an opportunity to see his injuries a little bit more thoroughly?
Yes.
And how much of his body was burnt?
I would say 70%.
And you talked about skin slippage. Where was the skin slippage?
So on his arms, down by his hands, so the skin peeled off and went down towards his hands. He also had some skin slippage up when I tried to grab him up by the shoulder area.
And you talked about the lacerations and I believe some injuries you saw on the back. Is this the time that you saw the injuries then on the back?
Yeah, I noted there was a lot of blood when we moved him. And during the time of the CPR and looking at him, there's a large pool of blood when we moved him from the area where he was laying down. Brought him over there, and once we were doing our medical assessment of him, he was still bleeding from his head. And then he had some lacerations as well on his back.
Your Honor, I believe that defense counsel has stipulated to People's Exhibit number 1, which includes it would include pictures 1 through 27, so we've labeled them all 1. So it'll be 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. And I believe we have a stipulation to admit these photos.
Any objection?
No objection, you stipulate, Your Honor.
Alexis, text me your name.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I can link it to a phone number.
And permission to publish?
I may have got it, but
Thank you, Your
I
Honor.
can't see it.
I'm going to hand you the stack of photos that's been admitted as People's Exhibit number 1, just so that you can follow along as we talk about them from the jury.
Okay.
If she shows them digitally, we should be able to see
So this is 1-1, and I just want to point out for the record that it's evidenced by the number 1 at the bottom right corner, just for the ability to keep the record clean. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at in item 1-1?
So that appears to be where Mr. Stermer was laying originally before being moved. I also, it was marked with a flag as well.
So the flags were used for what purpose?
So the weather started getting bad, started raining, then started heavy raining, then it started to sleet, and then it started to snow. So the reason I used the flags was to mark where he was at, and I also saw some tire impressions from what appeared to be from the van going through the grass and back to the van.
And did you also mark the tire impressions?
I did, yes.
So I'm going to ask you, if you see places where you've marked tire impressions, if you could also then describe that to the jury.
On Exhibit 1?
Did you see any on Exhibit 1?
I see one other flag, but I'm not sure on this picture here.
Okay, I'll have you go to number 2 then. And can you describe to the jury what we're looking at here?
So number 2 is where Mr. Stermer was laying.
And can you tell by this picture then in relation to any tire tracks?
There are some tire tracks next to the flag there.
Yeah, she got it.
And would that be then towards the kind of a diagonal from the left to the right?
Yes.
That would be the tire track? Would that be the tire track?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have you then go to 1-3. Could you describe for the jury what we're looking at here?
So that's where Mr. Stermer was laying. The two flags depict the tire tracks going I'm trying to orient myself on that.
Would it help to give you the pointer?
No, I can see it on here.
Okay.
I got it. So the two flags are representative of where the tire tracks were.
So I'm going to point out, so we have the orange flag and the red flag. Those are the tire tracks. Can you see on the screen where I'm touching them?
Yeah, the first flag is depicting where, so the one on the left is depicting where Mr. Stermer was laying.
Okay.
The one past it, and it might be better with
on the next
photographs.
Okay.
But that could be possibly where the other tire track was.
Okay, and then I want to then the darkened area immediately to the right of the flag. What is that? Can you see where I'm pointing?
That is blood.
Okay, and that's where Todd Stermer was laying?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have you go then to the next photo. Okay. And can you describe what we're looking at here?
That's another picture of where Mr. Stermer was laying.
And then any tire track, is this the same tire track?
Yes.
I'm going to go to the next slide, which I believe will be 5. What are we looking at here?
So I think you can see the van in the background there. And if you look at the tire tracks, the one on the left and right, that is a tire track moving back towards the van.
So were you able to follow the tracks from where you first saw them to then the van that you found?
Yes.
And is this a progression of pictures as you're approaching the van?
It is.
Okay. So I'm going to go then to photo number 6, 1-6. What are we looking at here?
The picture, pretty much the same as the other one, depicting where the tire tracks were.
And are you just walking closer to the van at this time?
Yeah.
Apparently it was snowing.
And now I'm going to go to 1-7. What are we looking at here?
-7 is depicting where the two flags are, where the tire tracks are going back behind the house.
And again, then also where the victim was located?
Yes.
I'm going to go to 1-8. And what are we looking at here?
It's just another photo depicting where the tire tracks are going to the back of the house.
And in this photo, we can see part of the house, is that correct?
Correct.
And so if we're looking at the house from this angle, what side of the house is that?
This is the north side.
So if I'm going down the driveway, this would be the right-hand side of the house?
Correct.
And just looking back up at it?
Yes.
I'm going to go to 1-9. And what are we looking at here?
That is a picture of the van.
And then where was this again located?
On the west side of the residence, behind the house.
Behind the house. I'm going to go to 1-10. What are we looking at here?
Another picture of the van.
Yeah, doing great.
1-11.
Congratulations on 6
That's going to be
months.
a picture facing east.
It's a big van.
The passenger side picture of the van.
And so this is also showing part of the house. Again, what part of the house are we looking at here?
The south side.
See the
And
house
that would
on
be
fire.
the back side of the
Oh,
house?
sorry, the west side. That would be the west side.
The west side, which is the back of the house?
Yes.
Would that be the lower level? Is that the walkout level?
I would assume so. I never went in it. So.
And I'm going to go to 1-12. And if you could just describe what we're looking at here.
Another picture depicting where the van was on the west side behind the house.
And the lighted up area obviously is still where the fire is occurring?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay. Do you know what the lighted area is?
I do not.
Okay. I'm going to go to 1-13. And what are we looking at here?
That's another picture of the van behind the house.
1-14. I see. Did you put a flag on this picture?
I did.
And why do you have a flag on this picture?
So when I was looking at the van, I noticed that on the brush guard, there appeared to be blood on it.
And when you say the brush guard, what do you mean by the brush guard?
So below the chrome bumper, there was a plastic brush guard, and there appeared to be blood on it.
And that's what the flag is depicting?
Correct.
I'm going to go to 1-15. What are we looking at here?
That's another picture of the van with the flag near it, and you can kind of see a little bit of red to the right of the flag, and that is the blood that I saw.
So I'm going to go to the right of the flag.
Right on the brush guard there.
Right there where I'm pointing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to 1-16. What are we looking at here?
That's a picture of the driver's side of the van.
So your back would have been to the house at this
I would have been to
direction?
the house at this time, yes.
Go to 1-17. What are we looking at here?
That's the front of the van straight on. So I'd have been facing the north. The van was facing the south.
She lined up straight. So the driver's seat was right in line
to
with
the left of it. There's a red mark, and that's what I believe to be blood on the van.
I'm going to go to 1-18. What is this?
That's another picture of the front of the van, where the previous flag was, and then what appears to be blood on the brush guard.
So just a close-up from the last picture?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to 119. Is this another further close-up?
That's another close-up of the same.
Yeah, that looks
I'm going to go to 1-20.
Another close-up of the same of what I saw.
1-21. Do you know what it is we're looking at here?
So, if you see, kind of faint, but there's some flags out there. So if you go to the top, I don't know if you can see it from there. There's like 1, 2, 3 flags that I can see.
Are they red?
They're red. So that would be where the tire impression would be.
Am I pointing to the first one?
That would be on this side. So it would be on the north side.
Okay, that's one of the flags?
That's one of the flags, and then on the other side would have been the south side flags.
Okay, and then these 2 flags here?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to mark is where you could see the tire impressions going to the van. Again, it was pouring rain, getting hard, and freezing rain and a little bit of snow.
So at that time, you're just trying to make sure that you get the property marked?
I'm just trying to preserve it for with whatever I had at the time. Yes.
I'm going to go to 1-22. And what are we looking at here?
So what I'm trying to depict there is if you look on the left, there's the flags going kind of rounded back towards the van. So on the right side, you can see the flags going back towards the van. The left side, flags going back towards the van. So trying to capture how the van went around and parked.
So you were able to then, let me ask you this way, were you able to see where the van started and where it ended?
Initially, yes.
And you were able to follow that entire path?
Yes, I followed it from, not necessarily all the way from the front, but where I could see some tire impressions, I followed that to go around to the back of the van on that north side of the house.
Do you know how much you could see prior to Mr. Stermer's body? How much of the tire tracks you could see prior?
It wasn't a heavy impression. It was just a mild impression. It's like someone drove through your grass.
Was the ground more solid there?
At the time, the ground was more solid. There may have been just a little bit. It may have rained there before. I don't know. I'm not sure if it rained there before. But there was just a little bit of mud.
And then you were able to then track it up to the point of Mr. Stermer's body?
Yes.
And then you were able to track them going to the backyard?
Yes.
Was this a fluid track? Meaning, did you see any detours off of that curve?
I did not know.
Okay. So you were able to follow it in a pretty smooth curve?
Yes.
I'm going to go then to 1-23. What are we looking at here?
Again, depicting where the tire tracks were leading to the van.
And that's donated by the red flags?
Correct.
1-24.
The same thing. I think just a little bit better angle. I think you can see a little more on this picture where the flags are going back towards the van. And
I want to ask you, are those flags going in two separate lines?
Correct.
So the flags on what would be more in the middle of the screen, those would have been...
The flags are near the tire tracks, yes.
And so let me ask you this way. So you're marking two sets of tire tracks?
Two sets of tire tracks.
The left side, the driver's side, and the passenger
Correct.
side. Okay.
And in this picture you can see where there's looks like some medical supplies that might have been left out, some gloves or something. And it looks like right there, that's where Mr. Stermer was laying.
Okay, when you say right there...
On the left side.
Left side?
Above that white.
Above this white?
So go above that and right there.
So right above the white?
Yes.
That's where, what is that?
It looks like that's where Mr. Stermer was laying.
And when you're talking about medical supplies, what are you talking about?
Gloves. Gloves, and maybe that was a bandage that I probably grabbed out of my car.
Okay. I'm going to go to 1-25. What are we looking at here?
It's another picture depicting the tire tracks and showing where Mr. Stermer was laying.
And again, I just want to be clear, there's two straight lines of flags, correct?
Correct.
And so the ones then on the left would be the driver's side, and the ones on the right would be the passenger side?
Yes.
I'm going to go to 1-26.
It's depicting pretty much the same thing. I think you can vaguely see the van up on the left-hand side there.
At the top of the photo?
At the top of the photo, yes.
So the van, is that the van there?
Correct.
At the top?
Yes.
I'm going to go to 1-27. And what are we looking at here?
That's another photo depicting the tire tracks.
And I believe that is the last photo. Did you take any injuries of any photos of Mr. Stermer's injuries?
I did not.
After you had taken the pictures, mapped everything out, at some point were the detectives called?
Yes, I called my sergeant at the time, Verge Franks. I asked him to come out. He came out, and the decision was made to call our detective bureau in.
And who did you call?
Detective Maciowski, Detective Rout, Lieutenant Stump.
And you had mentioned that the medical examiner had arrived at some point.
Yes.
Do you recall who that was?
Amy Darling.
Did the fire department arrive while you were present?
Yes.
Were you able to obtain information about that van that was in the yard still running?
Yes, by running it through the Secretary of State system.
Did you determine who owned the van?
I believe it was owned by the Stermers. I'm not sure what name it's registered into.
What was done with the van?
That was towed.
Do you know where it was taken?
I believe it was taken to Decatur towing.
And why was it taken there?
Should have been towed on a flatbed.
The decision was made by the detectives to preserve the van for evidence and continue on.
Was the rain concerning at that time?
It was, yes.
At that point, did you continue on with the investigation, or did the detectives take over?
The detectives took over.
After they took over and started their investigation, did you receive any physical evidence from the Detective Bureau?
I got some clothing that was given to me by Detective Maciowski and Sergeant Franks.
And were you aware of whose clothing or what that clothing was at that time?
I was not.
And what was done with that clothing?
It was wet. Might have been some blood on it. I was asked to go take it to our crime lab at the sheriff's office and hang it up.
And why would you dry it out? Was that the reason it was hung up?
Yes.
And you said it was bloody and wet.
When I hung it up, I noticed there was some wetness on it and some blood, yes.
And then that was that in a secure area that it was hung up?
Yes.
After you moved Mr. Stermer away from the house, were you able to then show the detectives where he first was located by you?
Yes, I did.
And at that time, was everything flagged for them?
So, when I put the flags out there, but there's also other first responders on that north side. And I think one of the pictures here, it shows a tire track kind of going off. I believe that is to a first responder vehicle. That's not related to the tracks that I saw going to the Ford Econoline van.
And then did you inform the detectives of everything that you had seen?
I did.
And then was the scene secured for that evening?
Yes, it was.
And how was it secured?
I believe the detectives called the police to secure it and waiting on the fire marshal.
And the fire marshal, did they secure it until the fire marshal arrived?
To my knowledge, yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. New attorney on cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Just have a few questions. I want to go over some of what you observed when you got to the scene. First of all, you said that you saw Linda and you showed us she was kneeling over Todd.
Correct.
She was screaming his name, wasn't she?
She was yelling Todd, yes.
She was hysterical, essentially. Right?
She was yelling his name, yes.
Loudly?
Loudly, yes.
Out of control?
I wouldn't say out of control, but yeah, she was yelling his name, Todd, 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 over and over.
Did you help get her off of him? You were looking at some of the photos, and we saw the photos of the blood on the ground. You remember that?
Correct. Yes.
And comparing it to the tire tracks. Right? Yes. There was no blood that you observed at the scene on the tires themselves. Is that right?
I didn't observe it on the tires, no.
In fact, we saw the blood on the bumper. Remember that? The brush guard, you called it.
Yes.
And the brush guard is about, what, 10 inches off the ground?
I'm not 100% sure how far up that is, but
roughly.
Roughly.
Okay. 10 inches off the ground, and it was inside the tire, wasn't it?
Yes.
All right. You didn't see any evidence of any blood on the vehicle itself that would suggest the tire impacted Todd. Fair?
Yeah, I did not know.
All right. The Econoline van was taken to Decatur towing, and you had nothing to do with it after that?
I had nothing to do with it, no.
The clothing that you took, did you know it was Linda Stermer's clothing?
I don't recall if I was told that by Verge Franks or by Maciowski.
One way or another, you don't know?
One way or another, I don't know at this time.
But you took it to the crime lab, right?
Correct.
And you stored it personally in some area?
So the sheriff's office has a secure crime lab area. So you could go in there, you can hang up stuff, any type of evidence. They do fingerprints in there if they were trying to get lien prints off of an item. If you were a crime technician, etc.
Are you a crime technician?
In 2002, I went to a basic 35-hour class that covered basic crime scene.
Okay.
Basic 35-hour class.
2007, January 7, 2007, you were not a crime scene technician for the Van Buren County Sheriff's, fair?
Well, I would get called out sometimes to do fingerprints, basic stuff, castings of a tire, but any advanced crime scene technician, no.
Okay. Were you aware of the policies of the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office with respect to how evidence is stored and secured?
I'd imagine I was at that time.
You can't just tell us as you sit here today, fair?
Fair.
Yeah. And you don't know, well, you didn't separately bag any of the evidence, did you?
I did not.
All right, you just kept it and stored it in the room together as you found it?
I hung it up separately, yes. Okay. I noted it in a report.
But you don't know the way you hung it up and where you stored it was in compliance with the Sheriff's Office policies and procedures, fair?
Fair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Just briefly, Your Honor. You never had the opportunity to examine underneath the van, did you?
I did not, no.
And you're trained as to how to store evidence, correct?
Yes.
And you have policies and procedures on how to store evidence?
Yes.
And that was the secured area that the evidence was put into, correct?
Correct.
And did you follow the policies and procedures at that time of how to handle evidence?
First objection for leading, and it's allowed.
I did, yes.
Thank you.
To my knowledge, I did, yes.
As an officer, do you review policy and procedures?
Yes.
And are you informed by command staff of what policy and procedures are?
Yes.
And do you follow policy and procedures as given to you?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
When I asked you just a second ago, were you aware of the policy of securing and storing the evidence on January 7, 2007? You told me you didn't know, right?
I did not know the actual policy and procedure on that date.
Okay. No, you generally you were aware of the policies, how you're supposed to do it?
Correct, yes.
But as you did those pieces of clothing, you don't know if they complied with the Sheriff's Office policy, fair?
I do not know at that time, yes.
Thank you.
So no further questions.
Jurors, do you have any questions for this witness? I've got a couple hands lined up, so if you have already, please write down your questions.
Jurors have questions. Get a little static while they discuss them. So I'm trying to put together all these photos. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. I'm putting together the photos for you so we have the crime scene photos that we can flip through and review as needed. On number 15. So a couple people are saying, whoa, Why do you guys think she's guilty? The trial just started. Yes, it just started. But we have the benefit of having seen all the evidence previously for those who have dug into this case a little bit, because this is not the first trial. She's already been convicted once in a second trial, in the original trial, and this is a retrial because in the first trial, there were a couple problems. First of all, in the closing, the prosecutor called her a liar and bolstered his own witnesses and maybe misstated some of her testimony. Also, her lawyer did not object to any of that. And also her lawyer in the first trial did not call their own fire investigator to counter the claims of the fire investigator of the state. That was sufficient evidence to grant her a new trial. She's been out since that decision on bond. And so we have a new trial. But we've already seen all the evidence. The evidence is basically that her husband was, according to her sons, laying down, not feeling well in his favorite room on his chair. One witness says that she was trying to get back in the house to get a drink canister that may have had a sedative that she had given her out of the house. They had been fighting. He had just found out they had an affair. He was found, his pants were doused in accelerant. We have several different stories within 24-hour period as to what happened, including whether or not she even saw him on fire in the house or if she was able to even go upstairs. Lots of different stories there. She leaves the house. He miraculously comes out of the house on fire, and she then runs him over twice with the van. That's the defense story, is that she ran him over twice with the van but didn't see him. Then hides the van, leaves it running in the backyard.
Some questions from the jury, sir. No objection from counsel. First one is, do you know if the van was stuck behind the house or merely parked, just if you know?
It did not appear to be stuck. It appeared to be parked.
Okay. Were the tire tracks on the dirt drive around the house? Were they on the dirt drive around the house?
It was on a grass dirt area. I don't know if that's what they use as their drive or not.
Okay. Any blood, mud trail, or drag marks from Todd to the house prior to moving him?
Not that I saw, no.
Was he bleeding before he got outside?
Counsel, do you have any questions in light of my questions and answers? Inside of you?
I would just like to follow up one.
Yeah, did you have any?
Another question.
Okay.
So that second question had to do with tire tracks around what you call the dirt drive. It wasn't even a driveway, right?
No, it looks like maybe they use that to drive around to the back of their house.
Did you see any tire tracks? Strike that. If you had seen that, you would have measured that off and flagged it, right?
If I would have saw, yes, I would have flagged that off, yes.
You didn't notice anything?
I did not, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear, when you talk about the drive around, what material was that? Was it dirt? Was it grass?
Dirt. There was no concrete, gravel, anything like that I recall.
So was it mainly grass?
Objection, small, speculate.
How much of it was grass?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
How much was grass?
Okay. Were there any defined tracks that you were able to say that this was something that was used in the past?
Not that I recall.
Okay. I have no further questions.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Jury, do you have any other questions of him in light of what's happened, the latest questions? Okay, you do, ma'am? Is it written down yet? Okay, we'll retrieve it from you.
Love this jury. They're on it. We're already asking questions. Second witness. Sometimes it takes a few witnesses for the jury to get engaged with their questions, but this is going well. Let's see if there are any more pictures I need to bring in. Let's see. Might have a couple duplicates here. All right. Export current frame as still. We're going to call that 20. We might rename this case.
Another question from the jury. When you first saw Todd, do you know if he was laying on his back or stomach?
He was on his back.
I'm sorry?
On his back.
Okay. Counsel, any questions in light of that question and answer?
I'd go ahead. You have personal.
Sir, I think you said you were about the fifth person to arrive. Fifth?
There is
Masali, Matheny, Calhoun, and Leach before you.
Correct.
And
that I remember, yes.
Okay. So you're the fifth person. You don't know how long it was from the time Todd Stermer was first found by Mr. Matheny to the time you got there, fair?
I do not know.
So when you got there, he was on his back, fair?
Yes.
And you don't know what had transpired with respect to Matheny, Masali, and Ms. Calhoun before that, right?
Correct.
In terms of whether he was on his back or he was on his face, fair?
Fair. When I arrived, he was on his back.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, jury? No questions. May he be excused from his subpoena, counsel?
I would ask that he be excused, Your Honor.
Do you want him to, are you okay with him being excused from subpoena? Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, you're all done.
Thank you.
I'll take those. If it was jury, we'll take our lunch break now. I'll have you return directly, thank you, to the jury room at 1:30. And please remember the instructions. Do not talk about the case with anyone or allow anyone to talk about it with you. Do not watch any media reports of the case. Thank you.
Okay, while they're running to lunch, let's see here. They're gonna go to lunch. I'm gonna flip through very quickly these photos one more time. Let's see if we can go full screen. And get rid of that. Okay, what are the names? Okay, we've just got the ceiling fan or the vent going on. Okay, here's the scene. We have Todd, who has managed to make it out of his house where he was on fire. He's burned. We've heard testimony that he was burned 75% of his body, or 70% of his body was burned. His sweats are down around his ankles. They have accelerant on them. People are wondering, why are his pants around his ankles? If he woke up and his pants were on fire, he would probably be trying to get them off. It's not very easy to do, and they can easily get bunched around your ankles, especially if you had shoes on or something like that. I don't remember if he had shoes or not, but we've got some graphic pictures here. Sorry, it's just before lunch, but we're gonna bring this in and show you the pictures as we go. Here's the scene where they found his body. You will notice there are tire tracks and footprints all around it. That's a fair amount of blood. As you start scrolling through the pictures, you can see sort of the tire tracks a little closer as they went right next to his body. Interesting, they go up around and back of the yard where the house is. You can see the van up there in back. You can see the tracks a little bit closer. Looking back down towards the house where the incident was. Here's the back of the van, approaching the van. This is a Ford Econoline van, big one, going around in a circle, sort of taking a look at it. From the big picture, there it is, but the most important part is the front, down in the bottom right-hand corner, specifically right in line with the driver. If the driver was to line up her body straight ahead with something, assuming it was the defendant, that's where his blood is found on the brush guard. And it is, whoops, there's the witness. I grabbed the wrong one. I need to go back and get the close-up. There's a lot. There's another view with the tire tracks marked out in the yard with little flags going back down to the scene where they found his body. So, Wow. We have a little bit more. How did you run with his pants around his ankles? He probably crawled, is more likely. Let me see if I can get the... There was one picture particularly that had a fair amount of blood on the bumper. Right here. Let me export that one really quickly, or I'll just make it full screen. How about that? Window. Okay, so here's the bumper. That's a direct hit. That's somebody who's laying down on the ground, whose body is not quite tall enough to too tall to fit underneath the 10-inch clearance of the van, getting hit by the bottom bumper, bottom of the bumper, the brush guard as they called it. All right, before we go to lunch, let me finish where we left off. We stopped and we were reading a little bit of the dissenting opinion from the. I don't read that on the screen right now, but there we go. The dissenting opinion from one of the justices who did not agree with getting a new trial for Linda, and he talks about a few things. Particularly, he says that regarding the prosecutorial misconduct. Wait, let's back up before that. He said there were three possibilities. He said there was an idea that Todd killed himself, Todd died accidentally, or that Linda murdered him. Those are the three options really for what happened here. He says no one tries to pin the death on the third person because there's no other suspect out there. The idea that Todd killed himself is a non-starter, aside from the oddity of attempting suicide by lighting himself on fire in a house that had plenty of firearms in it. That account does not explain the lacerations on Todd's head or how he managed to make Linda's car drive over him. The possibility of an accident suspends belief. Two remarkably unlikely events would have to happen. Todd accidentally would have had to set the house and himself on fire, and his wife accidentally would have to drive over him in the front yard. That is a lot of bad luck, all within 24 hours of another piece of misfortune, the disclosure that Linda was having an affair. The third possibility is that, and the only realistic one of the three, he says, is that Linda killed Todd after he discovered her affair and told her to leave the home and her teenage sons. Nothing in evidence answers any of the questions that point to Linda as the murderer. Why did Linda fill a can of gasoline in the morning of Todd's death? Why did authorities find gasoline on Todd's body and on towels in the washing machine? Why did Todd suffer head wounds from a blunt instrument? Why did Linda run him over nearly 50 feet away from the home and nowhere near the driveway in broad daylight? Why, after running him over, did he park the car behind the home rather than going to fetch help? Did she? Why didn't she call the fire department or police? Why did she tell so many inconsistent stories to investigators? Why did she want to sneak back into the home to hide evidence from police? Why do so many witnesses have so many incriminating things to say? Unable to answer any of these questions in a credible way, Linda shifts the blame to lawyers on both sides of the case, the misconduct of the prosecutor and the incompetence of her lawyer. She insists each requires a new trial, but the law does not provide a way out of her predicament. Congress has prohibited federal courts from second-guessing state court criminal convictions. AEDPA's highly differential standard applies to each of Linda's Stermer's challenges to the jury verdict and the state court's review of it. Stermer can prevail only by showing her conviction was, 1, contrary to or involved in an unreasonable application of clearly established federal law as determined by the Supreme Court of the United States, or else was 2, based on an unreasonable determination of the facts in light of the evidence presented by the state court preceding it. If we look at prosecutorial misconduct, Stermer alleges misconduct based on statements the prosecutor made in closing argument. Keep in mind that arguments are not evidence. And keep in mind the state court instructed the jury to convict based only on the evidence, not lawyer arguments. That means Stermer must show that she suffered not just ordinary trial error, but the kind of egregious misconduct that so infects the trial with unfairness as to create a denial of due process. She must demonstrate that this egregious misconduct had a tangible effect on the trial as a whole, and she must show that the state's court's rejection of these claims was clearly unreasonable under AEDPA. Attacks on Stermer's credibility. Stermer takes the umbrage with the prosecutor calling her a liar during closing statements, but the Supreme Court has never indicated that statements of this sort, standing alone, give rise to constitutional error. Nor should that reality surprise anyone. Criminal trials often represent a tug-of-war between opposing narratives. For one narrative to prevail, the party must prove the other one is false. If the prosecutors could not question a defendant's credibility, they could never win a case in which the defendant presented an alibi or contradicted the state's theory. Prosecutors should not gratuitously cast aspirations on a defendant's character, it is true, but that's not what happened. The prosecutor's statements about Stermer's honesty were brief and a peripheral to his central arguments. He stated that Stermer told lie after lie after lie. He said that she's a liar and she will lie when it suits her. And he stated that those accused of very serious crime might say things they might perceive are going to be favorable to them. These statements look nothing like the pattern of pronounced and persistent misconduct, with a probable cumulative effect upon the jury necessary to constitute a violation of redressable by habeas. And the record supported each statement. With each of the prosecutor's statement that she was diabolical, scheming, manipulative liar and murderer, what about that statement? He said he was, and this is a quote, diabolical, scheming, manipulative liar and murderer. Harsh, no doubt, unnecessary too. A good lawyer knows that it is better to let the jurors draw these conclusions from themselves rather than to push and prod the jurors into drawing them. But given the context of the entire trial, this one descent into impolitic and needless language did not clearly violate any Supreme Court decision or rule. And then he breaks it down. We can go into that further, but we might do that after lunch. They basically said she was a lying liar who lies in closing, and that got her a new trial. This is a crazy case. She was convicted once before, so I don't think it's a stretch it will happen again. Well, we have the benefit of seeing the evidence because it was already presented once in court. And his family's going to testify against her. Her family's going to testify against her, and the evidence is going to testify against her. She has an uphill battle, but she's trying to prove that this was some accident, some either act of God or spontaneous combustion, where her husband suddenly burst into flame, covered in accelerant, which she had nothing to do with, and it had nothing to do with the fact that she had just gone to the store to buy said accelerant. Then she has to also explain that it was in her rush to get help that she ran him over twice with the van. It's a tough one. All this happened the day after that he found out that she was having an affair. And she had just sent her kids away to be gone for the day with some money to go to the mall. It's a tough set of facts for the defense. That's why they have to use words like magical and somehow something happened. They don't have a theory for it either. Oh, let's see. Thib31, welcome to the gallery. Thank you for joining us. But did the crime scene speak? It spoke. It spoke. Let's see. Will she testify? She did last time. That'll be interesting if she does this time. Will her sons testify? I believe they will. Her sons believe she did it. Can we stick to evidence? Hopefully we can. I think this time they're going to be very cautious because the mistrial was granted when they called her a liar last time. I think this is just going to be evidence. They're going to let the witnesses call her a liar, but I don't think the lawyers will. This is lots of similarities with Melody Ferris. There are some fact similarities. Relationship, affairs, or allegations of affair, burned body. There's a few things here. The spontaneous combustion defense. I don't know, he just burst into flames, Your Honor. She said, I ran up there and saw him completely engulfed in flames. And then later that same day or the following day, she said, I wasn't even able to get upstairs. The smoke was so thick. Her stories give us reason to pause. Based on the evidence so far, it doesn't look good. It's just going to get worse, unfortunately, Carolyn. I read in the court paper you were just reading from that she did not testify. I thought she had. I had not watched the original one. It's possible it was referencing her comments to somebody else then. And I stand corrected if that's the case. Crystal, thank you very much for correcting me. Did they say how he got the gash on the back of the head? I don't believe her stories accounted for that, but it's possible the van may be involved. It's also possible that that may have happened inside, so we're not sure. Why is it called a triple threat? Georgia, because I didn't know it was quadruple. I'll fix that. Because we have now allegations of poisoning with the sedative, beating with the gash in the back of the head, burning with lighting him on fire, and then running him over with the van. That's 4 ways. That's 4 ways. So we might change this to be the liar trial. Look at my comment above about Linda testifying. She walked out of custody on 10K. Oh, above that, Linda did not testify in her first trial. She did testify during the appeal. Okay, that's where we saw that. Thank you for the clarification, Amber. Appreciate that. KQD, thank you for calculating the liker to looker ratio. Hopefully all of you are on the liker side of that ratio. It's a little less than half of you, 41%, or 40.090909. I still want the title to be Liar, Liar, Pants Off Fire. I wouldn't do the pants on fire, but I could change it to the Liar, Liar trial, and you can just fill in the rest. The pants on fire, unfortunately, references too closely the victim who was burnt, and I don't like pointing to that. But liar, liar points to the defendant in this case. Specifically, the reason this case is being retried, which is because she was called a liar, liar in the first case. I'll have to change it to quadruple threat. If you guys can think of a better term than that, let me know. Thank you for the like pause. Appreciate that. From what I've seen so far, Barb says, my mind is leaning towards guilty. Pumpkin eater because she was a cheater, like cheater, pumpkin eater. Poisoning fire, ran over, and what again? Beaten. I believe they're going to say that he was struck with something in the head, in the back of the head, in the house. I think that testimony is going to come in. Was it poison or sedative? Well, a sedative given to somebody against their will, I believe was considered poisoning somebody. Or you could say drugged instead. Jamie Jane, I am as well. There are no coincidences. All right, we're going to go to lunch. We're going to come back with part 2. Let me build the... If you'll give me just a minute, let me build the portal. What time did they say we're coming back from lunch? I think it's going to be 1:30 Eastern, which is an hour. So that gives us about 45 minutes. Tell you what, it's easier for me to build it's not easy for me to build this first portal. Let's put it that way. After this live stream ends, it's easier for me to copy the live stream and keep all my previous settings and the thumbnails and the descriptions and the playlist settings all the same. So we're just going to go to lunch this time and with no portal, which means that if you're not subscribed and you want to find the part 2 of the trial, please subscribe now, click the like button, and then you should be notified when we go live. But I'll build it here as soon as we're done. So we'll be there shortly. Wow, what a case. What a case. We'll also go through the rest of some of this dissent, possibly when we come back from lunch break as well. So. Tonight, when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again in about 45 minutes. Grab some lunch, grab a friend, come on back. Part 2 will begin then. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.